Chapter 634. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 636. The 3 stars. I won't be going. If you need anything, just send me a message. Love go little. Say W. Chew. The Kingdom Protector. Black Tortoise let out a yawn. It was not interested in the 3 stars at all. Only those ranked in the top 10 on the Hidden Dragon ranking were worthy of its attention. Qin Nan nodded. With a flicker, he left the inn and headed straight to the City Lord's mansion. The City Lord's mansion of the disordered Ocean City was also the Luan clan. Everyone inside was from the Luan clan. A while later, Qin Nan arrived at the City Lord's mansion. He could see a huge residence standing there, which took up a third of the disordered Ocean City. The entrance of the Luan clan was filled with people. There were only rows of guards, which felt like a royal palace. Qin Nan took out his invitation. A servant swiftly led him into the Luan clan. Most of the people in this Luan clan practice water-type ancient martial arts. Qin Nan's left eye of the divine god of battle flickered. The guards, servants, and disciples of the Luan clan were all covered in water vapor. Furthermore, the formations that the Luan clan had constructed were beneficial to the cultivation of water-type ancient martial art. Even the disordered ocean art in Qin Nan's body was restless. "We're here, please come in." Under the guidance of the servant girl, Qin Nan arrived at a hall and walked straight into it. As soon as he stepped into the hall, he was greeted with a lively noise and a pleasant smell of wine and meat. The hall covered an area of a few thousand meters. Tables were placed on the table, surrounded by cultivators. Some were from the 4 great factions, some were reputable rogue cultivators, and the disciples of the Luan clan. Qin Nan kept a low profile when he entered the hall. He did not purposely unleash his aura. Instead, he quickened his pace and sat in a corner. He picked up a cup of wine and pretended to be drinking. Lightning flickered in his left eye. Full text reading. These rogue cultivators possess powerful auras. Not only have their cultivations reached the peak martial highness realm, they have also practiced some ancient martial arts, and their martial spirits have reached the 6th grade D-ranked, or even the 7th grade D-ranked. Qin Nan roughly scanned the crowd and discovered over 30 rogue cultivators, who were not to be underestimated. On the other hand, the disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain, the Trading Alliance, and the Wanxiang Pavilion were significantly weaker than the rogue cultivators. These disciples were most likely weaker than Mu Qingye, Xuemeng, and the others. Therefore, it was obvious that a forbidden place like the disordered ocean would not attract the attention of the geniuses of the 4 great factions. Although Qin Nan was not fond of the 2 great factions, these disciples were too weak, thus he would not vent his anger on them. "Where are the 3 stars and Zhu Hang?" Qin Nan frowned slightly. He scanned the crowd but did not see any of them. There were only the ordinary disciples of the Trading Alliance. At this moment, 3 powerful auras suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall. They didn't bother to hide their auras at all. Qin Nan glanced toward them and saw Du Feng standing on the left, with a young man standing in the middle, who was slightly taller than Du Feng and had a similar appearance to Du Feng. The young man on the right had a mature face, whose aura was immeasurable like an abyss. Almost instantly, many people in the hall looked over at the same time. "I am the head of the 3 stars, Xing Duping. Today, I would like to apologize to everyone. Senior brother Zhu Hang has encountered some urgent matters and had no choice but to enter closed-door training. Therefore, he is unable to come today." Although his words sounded like an apology, his tone was completely unapologetic. "Zhu Hang isn't coming? That's boring. Forget it, I'll be leaving. It's rare for the 3 stars to be here at the same time." Many rogue cultivators in the hall shook their heads after hearing the words, before leaving the hall. These rogue cultivators were among the cultivators that Qin Nan had observed. They were here to witness Zhu Hang's strength with their own eyes. Since Zhu Hang was not coming, they had no choice but to leave. Although the rogue cultivators did not see Zhu Hang, it was rare enough to witness the appearance of the 3 stars. In just a blink of an eye, some of the rogue cultivators who were good at making friends and the ordinary disciples of the other 2 forces quickly gathered around Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng with wine in hand. They were like stars surrounding the moon. In just a blink of an eye, they formed a huge group of people. It was very lively. Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng wore calm smiles facing the crowd, as if they were enjoying the atmosphere. The eldest, Du Ping, with an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit, 2 sacred weapons and a few emperor weapons. His cultivation has reached the 8th layer martial highness realm. The second, Du Yuan, with an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit, 2 sacred weapons, but not as many emperor weapons as Du Ping. As for Du Feng, I've already fought him last time. While the crowd was enjoying themselves, Qin Nan's eyes flickered as he mumbled to himself, however, there's a similar aura inside their bodies. If I'm not mistaken, they must be able to execute some kind of secret technique to boost their strength. Upon seeing this, Qin Nan had a rough idea of the 3 stars' strength. Such a pity that Zhu Hang isn't here, so I can't see through his cultivation. Qin Nan shook his head and rose to his feet, preparing to leave. It was meaningless for him to stay any longer. However, at that instant, a hollow laugh could be heard all of a sudden. Isn't that Duan Qing, the top genius of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom? Why are you leaving now? The one speaking was none other than Du Feng. It appeared that Du Feng was aware that Qin Nan had come to the All-Dragons gathering, thus he had been scanning the surroundings as soon as he entered the hall, trying to locate Qin Nan's figure. Du Feng had spotted Qin Nan as soon as he stood up. The words caused the crowd to be startled, who glanced toward Qin Nan's direction. So this guy was Zhou Bihua's successor, the one who was stronger than Di Fengyun? Damn, it's really Duan Qing. I was told that he had robbed the trading alliance a while ago. It seems like the atmosphere between him and the 3 stars isn't quite right. Could it be true? True my ass, everyone knows that the trading alliance is trying to get rid of Duan Qing. That's interesting. Could it be that the 3 stars and Zhu Hang are here to deal with him? If that's the case, the trading alliance is willing to pay a huge price. The surrounding rogue cultivators were all smart people. Just by looking at a few small details, they were able to see many things that were different. Meanwhile, the disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang Pavilion were observing Qin Nan too. Qin Nan halted in his tracks and glanced at Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng before saying in a calm tone, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" Du Ping, the leader of the 3 stars, stared with his eyes open wide as a ferocious aura burst out from his body. "You've committed a great sin by robbing the trading alliance. Even if you're Zhou Bihua's successor, you shouldn't be so disrespectful. Today, I'm here to arrest you on behalf of the trading alliance." Whoosh! Du Ping immediately made his move. The terrifying force of the martial highness realm instantly combined with the force of the heavens and earth into a giant hand that grabbed in Qin Nan's direction. He was planning to crush Qin Nan with the strength of the 8th layer martial highness realm. This. Chapter 635. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 637. Let me have a drink with Hemas. The leader of the 3 stars, Du Ping's cultivation had reached the 8th layer martial highness realm, and he was ranked 25th on the hidden dragon ranking. Either way, his cultivation of the 5th layer martial highness realm was no match for Du Ping. At that instant, Qin Nan's figure tensed as he unleashed the force of the martial highness realm in his body. His left eye emitted a thunderous glow as it observed the trajectory of the attack, allowing him to dodge it with a slight tilt. For more information, www. Even though his left eye of the divine god of battle was able to predict the trajectory of the attack, it was too quick. Even Qin Nan could feel his hair standing on end. Du Ping's eyes flickered with astonishment. This Duan Qing was indeed extraordinary, being able to dodge his attack with a mere cultivation of the 5th layer Martial Highness realm. The other rogue cultivators were astounded too. It seemed like they had underestimated Duan Qing's strength. Clank! At that instant, Qin Nan made his move all of a sudden. With a kick, he slashed downward with a powerful saber intent. The slash was extremely tricky. Not only did it target Du Ping's weakest spot, it also prevented him from dodging it. Duan Qing. At that instant, Shi Yuan and Du Feng yelled at the same time. The two figures flanked Qin Nan from both sides, as if they were shooting arrows from both sides. The artifacts in their hands emitted glows as they fired their attacks in Qin Nan's direction. They were planning to team up against Qin Nan. Crap! Qin Nan was startled. With a kick, his figure twisted in a strange posture, allowing him to dodge the attacks. At that instant, a powerful force surged toward him from below, which turned out to be Du Ping, who had seized the opportunity to attack. Even though Qin Nan had predicted the attack, he had no chance of dodging it. Whoosh! The demon god's robe emitted a black glow as it encapsulated Qin Nan's chest, blocking Du Ping's attack with brute force. Bang! Qin Nan's figure was instantly sent flying. What a powerful armor! The eyes of the trio flickered with astonishment once again. They did not expect the inconspicuous black robe to possess such an extraordinary power. Love go little say Netuchu. However, their astonishment only lasted for less than half a breath. The three figures were like three fierce tigers, rushing down the mountain at the same time. They did not give Qin Nan any chance to catch his breath and pounced on him together. Left eye of the war god. Qin Nan had already reacted in time. As his figure was knocked backward, his left eye was fully activated, allowing him to observe the movements of the trio, allowing him to react accordingly. Even so, when the three stars attacked at the same time, their power was unparalleled, and they still forced him to retreat. So strong, the crowd of rogue cultivators could not help but gasp. Their compliments were directed at Qin Nan. The cultivations of the three stars were at the 8th layer, 7th layer, and 6th layer Martial Highness realm respectively. Even though they were not executing their attacks, ordinary geniuses would not stand a chance against them. Please read this book. Not to mention that Qin Nan's cultivation was only at the 5th layer Martial Highness realm. It was extremely impressive for him to be able to do this. Stop it! At that instant, a loud roar could be heard all of a sudden, as a tremendous pressure descended upon the place. The person was a middle-aged man wearing a blue robe. His body emitted a rumbling sound, as if there was an ocean roaring inside it. The man was none other than the current patriarch of the Luan clan, the patriarch of the city lord's mansion, Luan Qingjie, whose cultivation had reached the peak Martial Highness realm. 3 stars, Duan Qing, the 4 of you, give me some face today and don't fight here. How about it? If there's any conflict between you, feel free to settle it outside the disordered ocean city, or in the Crimson Blood Ocean. Luan Qingjie unleashed the terrifying force of the Martial Highness realm as he glanced at the 4 cultivators. Fine. I'll give the city lord some face. I'll let him go for now. Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng had teamed up to embarrass Duan Qing, but to their surprise, Duan Qing's strength turned out to be this powerful. If they continued to fight and unleash their attacks, it would be meaningless, as it would attract the attention of the experts of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom. Phew! My strength is still not enough. I have to think of a way to improve my cultivation. Qin Nan stabilized his figure while panting heavily. His aura was slightly unstable. If he were to fight Du Ping alone, he would not be in such a miserable state. However, when the time came, there would be no one-on-one battles in the Crimson Blood Ocean. It would be a one-on-one battle. Therefore, it was extremely urgent for him to improve his strength. Thank you, young cultivators. Luan Qingjie seemed to be in a great mood as he smilingly said, "It's not easy for 4 geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking to come to our disordered ocean city. As your seniors, I shall invite you to have a taste of the most precious wine of our Luan clan, the 7 Godly Brew." As soon as the words were spoken, the eyes of the surrounding cultivators were filled with strong envy. One must know that everyone in the Luan clan practiced water-type cultivation method. As a result, everyone in the Luan clan, regardless of age or gender, was skilled in brewing wine. Among them, the 7 Godly Brew was extremely famous in the eastern continent. Not only was it extremely delicious, it was extremely beneficial to one's cultivation too. However, ordinary people would not be able to drink it. The eyes of Du Ping and the others flickered hearing this, especially Du Ping, who was a great drinker. He immediately clapped his hands and said, "Great! Today, thank you so much, Patriarch Luan." "It's nothing, don't worry about it." Disordered Haijie shook his head with a smile as he waved his hand, causing 4 jars to land in front of Du Ping, Du Yuan, Du Feng, and Qin Nan. The crowd subconsciously glanced at the words read. Qin Nan lowered his head and saw 7 different liquors of different colors intertwining with one another in the jars, emitting a mystical glow. The 7 liquors looked like 7 figures, resulting in an extraordinary sight. A strong aroma of the wine instantly filled the hall, causing many cultivators to take a deep breath with an intoxicated look on their faces. Even Qin Nan could not help but exclaim, as the aroma alone was enough to arouse his appetite. "Interesting, let's have a taste." Qin Nan brought his fists together toward Haijie, before pouring a cup into it and drinking it. At that instant, 7 different aromas blossomed in his mouth, which merged into one, resulting in an indescribable aroma that was unforgettable. Following this, a strong, pure force was emitted toward Qin Nan's limbs and bones. Such a strong force. Qin Nan was startled. He knew that the 7 Godly Brew was extraordinary, but he did not expect the tiny cup to contain such an enormous force. If it were a 3rd-layer Martial Highness, their body would most likely explode on the spot. Even Qin Nan could feel a strong sense of intoxication surging into his mind. If he were to drink another cup, he would most likely pass out from the alcohol. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. The Martial Highness crystal in his body emitted a powerful absorption force as if it was aware of something, absorbing the force into it. A moment later, a stream of the force of the Martial Highness realm was emitted from the crystal. This, although Qin Nan's face was flushed, the drunkenness from before had completely disappeared, leaving him with a clearer mind. How impressive of the Martial Highness crystal, as expected of a law-defying existence, to be able to devour the force of the wine and convert it into a stream of the force of the Martial Highness realm. It even devoured the drunkenness from before. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with joy. The Martial Highness crystal had given him more surprises after it was refined. "What a pity, there's not enough 7 Godly Brew left." Qin Nan glanced at the jade jar. It seemed like he could only fill another cup with the remaining liquid. Besides, he was not familiar with Luan Qingjie and the Luan clan, thus he could not just ask them for the 7 Godly Brew. Even if he did, they might not give it to him. Meanwhile, the 3 stars and Du Feng transmitted their thoughts to Du Ping and Du Yuan as a sudden thought crossed their minds. Their eyes flickered as soon as they heard the news. "Duan Qing." Du Ping suddenly uttered a roar, giving the crowd a great shock. Luan Qingjie frowned. What did the 3 stars want? "Duan Qing. I failed to teach you a lesson when the patriarch of the Luan clan arrived. It's hard for me to vent my anger." Du Ping let out a hollow laugh and said, "How about this? Let's have a drinking contest with the 7 Godly Brew, and see who can drink more of it. What do you think?" It was quite common for the cultivators of the eastern continent to compete in drinking contests. The reason being that if one's cultivation was not strong enough, Drinking too much of the wine would result in a backlash, resulting in their bodies exploding. The crowd did not expect Du Ping to challenge Duan Qing to a drinking contest. Everyone knew that Du Ping was an 8th-layer martial highness while Duan Qing was only a 5th-layer martial highness. The difference between the two was too great, thus it was not fair at all. Patriarch Luan, if Duan Qing were to compete in drinking contests, would you be willing to pay more of the 7 godly brew? If Patriarch Luan is willing, I can introduce you to our Supreme Elder. I believe he would be more than willing to meet you. Du Feng and Du Yuan spoke, while glancing at Luan Qingjie. Don't worry about the fee, I'll pay for the wine. Luan Qingjie's eyes flickered slightly. He was more than willing to establish a relationship with the trading alliance. He could even do the 3 stars a favor. Therefore, a few bottles of the 7 godly brew were nothing to him. How about it, Duan Qing? Do you dare to accept the challenge? Du Ping's aura became magnificent as he glanced down at Qin Nan with a hint of disdain, with a strong sense of provocation. Qin Nan frowned slightly. At that instant Luan Qingjie spoke with a smile. Cultivator Duan Qing, this kind of drinking contest is quite popular in our Luan clan. Whenever there's a conflict between us, we would settle it by drinking. As the top genius of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom, I believe you're not convinced after being suppressed by Du Ping and the others, right? Why don't you accept Du Ping's challenge? That being said, I'm sure you'll have enough 7 godly brew. Qin Nan glanced at Luan Qingjie. He did not expect Luan Qingjie to speak up for Du Ping and the others at that instant. Since you're asking for it, don't blame me for being merciless. I accept your challenge, let's drink. Qin Nan wore a calm expression. The crowd and the ordinary disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang pavilion were stunned. Did Duan Qing just accept the challenge? Sure. Du Ping wore a joyful expression, before his eyes flickered coldly. Drinking contest? I'm going to kill you. Haha, cultivator Duan Qing, you're indeed a dragon among men with great courage. Someone, go get the 7 godly brew. Luan Qingjie burst out laughing and immediately gave out the order. However, a rare occurrence took place at that instant. At the entrance of the hall, a terrifying aura suddenly surged, causing a strong gust of wind to blow in the hall, causing countless tables and chairs to tremble in fear. The aura was even more terrifying than Luan Qingjie's. I'll drink with him. These 5 short words were spoken in a calm tone, but they seemed to contain boundless magical power. They landed in the hearts of the crowd, causing a layer of goosebumps to appear on everyone's bodies. The person was none other than Zhu Hang. Chapter 636. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 638. Making Acquaintances with Wine. The Hidden Dragon ranking seemed to be a ranking, but it was actually divided into 3 levels. Dollar, Cotton, Flower Candy Talk, Access to. They were Earth Grade 8, Earth Grade 9, and Earth Grade 10. For example, a genius with an 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit would never be ranked in the top 15 even if his cultivation had reached the peak martial highness realm. Due to the limitation of the Kanglan continent's soul, an 8th grade D-ranked martial ancestor could only achieve the half martial ancestor in their lifetime. Only a 9th grade D-ranked martial ancestor could stabilize the martial ancestor. For example, some rogue cultivators immediately left when they saw that Zhu Hang did not show up. At that instant, the entire place fell silent. No one had expected Zhu Hang to show up all of a sudden, and to have a drinking contest with Duan Qing. Senior brother. Du Ping and the others quickly reacted and spoke in a humble manner, completely losing their previous arrogance. Fellow Taoist Zhu Hang, why did you suddenly? Chaos Qingjie didn't dare to be arrogant, and spoke to Zhu Hang as if they were equals. Qin Nan glanced in the same direction too. He saw a young man standing at the door. He had a head of golden hair, sharp eyebrows, and bright eyes. Not only did he not hide his cultivation base, he also did not hide the arrogance that came from his bones. Instead, he radiated it incisively and vividly. It was as if he was saying that everyone present was his subject, and he was the king. A 9th grade D-ranked martial spirit, 3 sacred weapons and a few hundred emperor weapons in his body. Furthermore, there's also a mysterious aura inside his body, which even my left eye of the divine god of battle is unable to peek through. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. He could not deny that this Zhu Hang was indeed powerful. The 3 stars were no match against him. Zhu Hang nodded slightly at the 3 stars, Luan Qingjie, and the others as a greeting. Following this, he glanced at Qin Nan and said calmly, "I'll repeat myself. I'll have a drinking bet with you. Whoever drinks more will win. Do you dare to accept it?" Hearing this, the crowd, including Shi Ping's 3 sons, and the others subconsciously glanced toward Qin Nan. Marshmallow, everyone knew that Zhu Hang was a 9th grade D-ranked cultivator, a peak martial highness realm presence, while Duan Qing was only an 8th grade D-ranked cultivator, a 5th layer martial highness realm cultivator. If they were to have a drinking contest, Duan Qing would lose without a doubt. Thus, they wanted to see how Duan Qing would respond. Qin Nan frowned slightly. Zhu Hang's eyes flickered with disdain when he saw Qin Nan's reaction. He said, "It's fine if you don't want to. I thought you had some kind of capability." Initially, Zhu Hang was extremely reluctant to come to the chaotic ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe, as it would be a waste of time if he did not encounter any fortunate encounters. However, the leader of the trading alliance had forced him to do so, leaving him with no other choice. It was precisely because of this that a trace of curiosity grew in Zhu Hang's heart. What ability did Duan Qing have to be able to make the alliance leader treat him like that? However, to his surprise, this Duan Qing did not even have the guts to have a drinking contest with him. At this moment, Zhu Hang instantly lost interest and prepared to leave. He would leave this Duan Qing to the 3 stars. "A drinking contest with me, huh?" At that instant, Qin Nan calmly spoke. "It doesn't matter who the trading alliance sends, I'll accept the challenge." Qin Nan had the martial highness crystal in his body, thus he was not afraid of drinking with anyone. For a genius of the eastern continent like Zhu Hang, he preferred to compete with his strength, thus he did not accept the challenge at first. However, since this Zhu Hang had challenged him twice in a row, there was no reason for him to reject it. Hearing this, the rogue cultivators, the 3 stars, and the others were stunned. Such a scornful Duan Qing. He dared to say such words in front of Zhu Hang. Did he not put Zhu Hang in his eyes at all? How bold! The trio became enraged, as if they were about to attack. "Stop it!" Zhu Hang suddenly spoke while staring down at Qin Nan with an intrigued look. "It seems like I've underestimated you. I did not expect you to dare to challenge me with a mere 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit. Therefore, I have to give you more respect. Of course, don't let me down. Bring the wine." Saying this, Zhu Hang sat down straight and waved his right hand in a magnificent manner. Chaos Qingjie suddenly reacted and shouted, "Bring the wine! Bring the wine!" The guards, maids, and disciples of the Luan clan immediately collected their thoughts. They immediately went to fetch the wine. Not long after, several jade plates were placed on the table. On the jade plates were 20 jars of the 7 godly brew. The strong aroma of the wine immediately swept across the place. Holy crap! 20 jars! Is he trying to drink 10 jars per person? Even a peak martial highness realm cultivator wouldn't be able to do that. This Duan Qing is too full of himself. He's in for it. The rogue cultivators were astounded. Their gazes toward Qin Nan were filled with a hint of gloating. If he were to drink the wine today, he would most likely explode due to the strong alcohol. However, if he were to refuse, it would be a great humiliation. This Duan Qing was too reckless. Whoosh! All of a sudden, Zhu Hang made his move. He grabbed one of the bottles and gulped it down, swallowing the entire bottle of 7 godly brew into his stomach. The eyes of the crowd widened. What was Zhu Hang trying to do? He tossed the jade jars aside as if nothing had happened and said in a calm tone, "I'll drink one first." Whoosh! Zhu Hang grabbed the second jar and emptied it into his mouth. He then tossed the jade jars aside and calmly said, "The second jar." It was as if the 7 godly brew had lost its effect at that instant. It was as if Zhu Hang had not drunk 2 jars of the 7 godly brew, but 2 jars of plain water. At that instant, the hearts of the rogue cultivators, Luan Qingjie, and the others shuddered. That was 2 jars of the 7 godly brew. Even a peak martial highness would not be so calm after drinking them, right? Whoosh! Zhu Hang did not stop there. He grabbed the 3rd jar and emptied it with a calm expression. Following this, the crowd could only hear him saying in a calm tone, "I'll drink 3 jars to rinse my mouth and quench my thirst. Now, it's your turn." At that instant, the crowd fell into a dead silence. The crowd stared with their eyes open wide and flickered with astonishment. 3 jars, one at a time, and there was no reaction from him after he had finished them. If it were any other peak martial highness, they would have to use all their might to suppress the alcohol in their body after drinking 3 jars. However, not only did Zhu Hang not move, he even said that he would rinse his mouth and quench his thirst. Was this the power of the 13th ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking? Du Ping and the others were not too shocked. They glanced at Qin Nan with disdainful looks. "Senior brother Zhu Hang is here. What are you going to do?" "This Zhu Hang is quite impressive indeed," Qin Nan complimented in his heart, before he glanced at Qing Jie and said, "Patriarch Luan, I have a favor to ask." Qing Jie was startled, before he subconsciously said, "Do you mean Zhu Hang?" Du Ping and the others frowned. What was this Duan Qing trying to do? As soon as the doubts surfaced in their minds, they heard Qin Nan speaking calmly. "This jar is too small for me to drink to my heart's content. Do you have a water jar?" Chapter 637. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 639. A battle between dragons and tigers. Water jar? The rogue cultivators, the 3 stars, Luan Qingjie, and even Zhu Hang himself were stunned. A love go little say, W. Chu access. The jade jars of the 7 godly brew were extremely small. Even if they were poured into a cup, there would only be enough for 2 cups. Wouldn't it take at least a few dozen jars to pour into a water jar? Was this Duan Qing planning to drink a few dozen jars in one go? If that was the case, even Zhu Hang himself would not be able to do it. If it were any other peak martial highness realm cultivator, their flesh would most likely explode. Haha, a water jar! This is hilarious, it's my first time seeing someone drinking with a water jar. This Duan Qing is really something. The rogue cultivators collected their thoughts. Many of their faces were filled with disdain and speechlessness. Did this Duan Qing seriously think he was a martial sacred realm expert? Trying to drink with a water jar? How ridiculous! You should drink 3 jars in a row first. The 3 stars collected their thoughts and wore cold grins on their faces. This kid was way too cocky. "I'm sorry, Cultivator Duan Qing, we don't have a water jar here. You'll have to drink with a bottle." Luan Qingjie's expression became cold. The Luan clan did have a water jar, but he would not give it to Duan Qing, as he was afraid that this Duan Qing would go crazy and drink all the jars. "Alright then." Qin Nan ignored the chatter around him. His face was filled with disappointment. He was only trying to save some time. To his surprise, this patriarch of the Luan clan did not even have a water jar. Did that mean he couldn't do it just because the others couldn't? Whoosh! Qin Nan reached out his hand at lightning speed and emptied one of the jars. Together with the pleasant smell of the wine, a tremendous force entered Qin Nan's body. The martial highness crystal unleashed its power and refined the force into 2 streams of the force of the martial highness realm. Awesome, Qin Nan was excited. It was not easy to obtain the power of a venerable. Now, he could easily achieve it by drinking a bottle of wine. How could he not be happy? Schwa. He proceeded to drink the jars of 7 godly liquid at the speed of lightning. The martial highness crystal in his body was activated continuously, which transformed into 4 streams of the force of the martial highness realm. At that instant, the crowd, including Zhu Hang, wore astonished looks on their faces. 3 bottles. He downed 3 bottles in one go. This Duan Qing was perfectly fine. Everyone knew that Duan Qing was only an 8th grade D-ranked cultivator with a cultivation of the 5th layer martial highness realm. How did he do it? What kind of method did he use? Interesting. A smile appeared on Zhu Hang's face. Even though Duan Qing had displayed his outstanding capabilities, in his opinion, he would surely win the bet. Schwa. Zhu Hang began to act. He grabbed the 4th bottle and downed it in one gulp. Then, he grabbed the 5th bottle and downed it in one gulp. Not only that, his hand reached out once more. Is he going to drink 6 jars in a row? Gasp! Such an outstanding strength. If I were him, I wouldn't even be able to finish a single bottle. The crowd was astounded. Following this, they subconsciously glanced at Qin Nan and were dumbfounded too. They could only see Qin Nan grabbing the 4th bottle and downing it in one gulp. He soon grabbed the 5th bottle and downed it again, before grabbing the 6th bottle without slowing down. Furthermore, Qin Nan's eyes glowed with excitement as he continued to drink. 6 jars in a row. Did this Duan Qing do it too? At that instant, everyone, including the 3 stars and Luan Qingjie, came to a realization. This Duan Qing was no ordinary cultivator. He must have some trick in his body that allowed him to rapidly refine the wine. If it were us, Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng could not help but shiver as the thought crossed their minds. Luckily, senior brother Zhu Hang was here. Otherwise, they would not be able to finish 6 jars in a row, which would be a great humiliation to them. How does this Duan Qing know how to do it? Damn it! The expressions of Du Ping and the other 2 quickly darkened again. They only calmed down when they glanced at the calm and composed Zhu Hang. With senior brother Zhu Hang here, Duan Qing would surely win the battle regardless of what tricks he had up his sleeves. Haha, Duan Qing, I didn't expect you to be so capable with your mere cultivation of the 5th layer martial highness realm. No wonder our alliance leader is so cautious of you. Here's a toast to you. Zhu Hang grabbed the 7th bottle after finishing the 6th one and downed it in a single gulp. Zhu Hang's eyelids jumped when he saw Qin Nan finishing the 7th bottle. He immediately grabbed the 8th bottle and said, "A toast to the hero." Qin Nan nodded his head slightly and finished the 8th bottle in a single gulp. The crowd was astounded seeing this. How nice of this Duan Qing! Finishing 8 jars in a single gulp without any change in expression. Even Zhu Hang's face was slightly flushed after finishing 8 jars in a row. His breathing was filled with a hint of tipsiness. However, his heart skipped a beat when he saw Duan Qing's calm expression. What was wrong with this Duan Qing, to be able to drink 8 jars in a row without any change in expression? Was he faking it, or was he really going to keep drinking? Come, good things happen 3 times in a row. Here's the 9th bottle. Zhu Hang picked up the 9th bottle. He was slightly disgusted by the aroma of the 7 godly brew, but despite that, he still finished the 9th bottle in a single gulp. That majestic and pure energy cleansed his physical body, causing his aura to no longer be able to remain calm. It began to become slightly chaotic, and he had to use a little technique to suppress it. Qin Nan let out a calm laugh as he raised the 9th jar and emptied it. His expression remained the same. Seeing this, the crowd opened their mouths wide, but no words came out from their mouths. The scene before his eyes was simply too inconceivable. A total of 9 jars. Even if the fifth layer Martial Highness Qin Nan had used some kind of trick, there was no way he could remain so calm, right? Even Zhu Heng began to show a reaction. This is my 10th bottle. I'll drink it first. Qin Nan picked up the 10th bottle and impatiently drank it. His body shuddered violently as the force of the Martial Highness realm was produced once again. After drinking 10 jars, his body now had 20 streams of the force of the Martial Highness realm. This. Zhu Heng was startled. That was the 10th bottle, why was there no reaction? This feels great. Qin Nan was in a great mood as he waved his hand. Patriarch Luan, bring me the wine. He only wanted more of the 7 godly brew. In that case, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Bring me the wine? Luan Qingjie was still in a daze. That was a total of 10 jars. How was he going to continue drinking after finishing 10 jars in a row? As for the other rogue cultivators, they were left speechless. Previously, they would have thought Duan Qing was being extremely scornful with his words. However, they did not feel the same way now. Was this scornful? This was not scornful at all, this was strength. Bring me the wine. Zhu Heng uttered a groan upon seeing this. His eyes became sharp as he grabbed the 10th bottle of the 7 godly brew and poured it into his body. Bang bang bang. A series of faint explosions could be heard from his body for the first time. Zhu Heng's expression changed slightly as he murmured a few chants and executed his martial art, causing a mystical glow to be emitted to suppress the tipsiness in his body. At that instant, the difference between them was obvious. Senior brother. Du Ping and the others were stunned, as they did not expect the situation to turn out this way. Chapter 638. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 640. Still drinking this, Qing Jie was stunned too, as he did not expect the situation to come to this. He initially thought Duan Qing would be the one begging for mercy first. Love go little say, W Chu. However, seeing the determined look on Zhu Heng's face, he had no choice but to wave his hand and yell, "Didn't you hear me? Go get the wine at once." The female guards quickly woke up from their stupor and quickly went to fetch the wine. Before long, the 7 divinities liquid was brought up. This time, instead of 20 jars, there were 50 of them. It was as if the strong aroma of the wine had burst out from the jars and solidified, sweeping the hall and penetrating someone's heart. Qin Nan's eyes flickered seeing this. These 50 jars were enough to improve his strength of the Martial Highness realm to the 6th layer Martial Highness realm. Duan Qing, let's continue. Zhu Heng let out a roar as a golden glow was emitted from his body, which gradually transformed into giant golden snakes that coiled around his body. The heads of the snakes floated above his shoulders as they flicked their forked tongues. At that instant, an imperious aura was emitted. The crowd was startled. He had even started to use such a powerful ancient martial art. Zhu Heng was going all out. Sure thing. Qin Nan grabbed one of the jars and emptied it. 2 streams of the force of the Martial Highness realm were produced in his body. Zhu Heng's eyelids jumped as he reached out his hand at a speed that was twice as fast as Qin Nan's. After drinking 2 jars in a row, the aura in his body shuddered violently. Let's continue. Zhu Heng let out a roar and grabbed the 3rd jar. Qin Nan grabbed the 2nd jar with a smile. Just like that, the 2 of them drank bottle after bottle, continuously drinking. The 4th jar. The 5th jar. The 6th jar. It wasn't until the 8th bottle that everyone regained their senses and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Even though Zhu Heng had executed a powerful ancient martial art to protect himself, the alcohol in his body still leaked out from his pores. Even his face began to redden. Meanwhile, Qin Nan's eyes glowed brighter with excitement, as if he was going to finish the rest of the 7 godly liquid. Most importantly, the aura in his body did not fluctuate at all. He had already emptied a total of 18 bottles. Why didn't his aura fluctuate at all? Could it be that Duan Qing was drinking water instead of the 7 godly brew? Zhu Heng's brows and hairs all shook. He pretended to be calm as he grabbed the 9th bottle of 7 god liquid and drank it all in one gulp. Boom! A tremendous force exploded within Zhu Heng's body, as if it was going to burst his body apart. Crap! Zhu Heng could no longer remain calm. His expression changed as the explosions of the treasures in his body took place, which transformed into streams of force that crushed downward like mountains, forcibly suppressing the force of the wine. Despite that, he could still feel his head spinning, causing him to lose his consciousness. Senior brother. Du Ping and the other 2 were startled. Love go little say ku, cultivator Zhu Heng. Qing Jie held his breath too. The crowd stared with their eyes open wide. Zhu Heng still had a slight chance of winning the duel, but it seemed like he had no chance of winning now. Without a doubt, Duan Qing was stronger than him. Qin Nan glanced at Zhu Heng and let out a cough. Cultivator Zhu Heng, are you sure you can do it? He could only hope that Zhu Heng could hold on. Only then would he be able to drink more of the 7 godly brew. Nonsense. Zhu Heng snapped coldly. Duan Qing, I don't know what you've done, but you won't be able to defeat me. Qin Nan was too lazy to waste his time talking to him. He grabbed the 10th jar and emptied it. He smacked his lips after finishing it. He could not help but admit that the 7 godly brew tasted better the more he drank it. He had finished 20 jars in a row. The same number flashed across the minds of the crowd upon seeing this. They were now numb from the astonishment. Drink. Zhu Heng clenched his teeth after seeing Qin Nan's reaction. He grabbed the 10th jar and emptied it. The 2 continued to drink the jars one after another. However, the atmosphere did not feel like a battle was about to take place. Zhu Heng's expression went from clenching his teeth to a dark expression. As for Qin Nan, his expression was one of satisfaction, satisfaction, satisfaction. Gulp. After finishing the 16th jar, Qin Nan let out a pleasant burp. Puff. Zhu Heng hadn't even finished the mouthful when a wave of nausea rose up in his heart. He braced himself and downed the entire mouthful of alcohol. His body was protecting itself, and he forced himself to spit out the last mouthful. The hearts of the crowd skipped a beat. Even the 13th ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking with a 9th grade D-ranked martial spirit was going to be defeated today. Qin Nan grabbed the 17th jar and said with a calm smile after seeing Zhu Heng's reaction, "That's enough, right? Cultivator Zhu Heng, you should take your leave. I'll drink on my own." Drinking on his own. The crowd could feel their lips twitching. He had finished 26 jars in a row. What kind of monster was this guy? Duan Qing, are you trying to humiliate me? It was as if Zhu Heng's tail had been stepped on, causing his hair to stand on end. His eyes were filled with a hint of anger. What did he mean by drinking on his own? Wasn't he trying to humiliate him? Qin Nan wore a helpless expression. Since when had he humiliated Zhu Heng? It didn't matter how many jars he drank, he would still win the battle. Instead of letting Zhu Heng drink a few jars of the 7 godly brew, he would rather leave them all to him. He might even be able to rank up to the 6th layer Martial Highness realm. Martial Spirit Unleash. Zhu Heng uttered a roar as 9 golden rays were emitted from his back. A terrifying suppression of his martial spirit swept the crowd like an enraged dragon. He had unleashed his martial spirit. Everyone could feel their hearts shuddering. At that instant, even their martial spirits began to vibrate. Du Ping and the others were dumbfounded. Their senior brother Zhu Heng had completely lost his composure. Enough. At that instant, an imperious voice could be heard coming from a distance away. The suppression of the martial sacred realm descended from the sky. Go back. A giant hand was formed and descended from the sky, grabbing Zhu Heng's figure and dragging him into the rift. The entire hall fell into a dead silence at that instant. Everyone stared with their eyes open wide. The person who had just interfered was the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance? Who had interfered with the bet. Let's go. Du Ping and the others collected their thoughts and immediately left the place. They did not dare to stay any longer. What if Duan Qing asked them to drink with him? How boring! Qin Nan was the first to break the silence. He shook his head and finished the 17th jar of the 7 godly brew, before picking up the 18th jar. Patriarch Luan, this 7 godly brew is extremely rare. It's my great fortune to be able to taste it today. I do have a favor to ask. I hope Patriarch Luan will allow me to drink to my heart's content. Qin Nan brought his fists together and said. Before Luan Qingjie could reply, he finished the 18th jar and the 19th jar, finishing it all in a single gulp. At this moment, the crowd finally recovered from their shock. Their jaws almost dropped to the ground from the shock. Chapter 639. A genius will remember love in a second divided by small? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 641. The storm is approaching. Qin Nan would not let go of such a rare opportunity. While the crowd was immersed in their thoughts, he grabbed the jars of 7 godly brew and finished them all at a rapid pace. A love go small say W Chu. For more information, visit www. A while later, the remaining jars of 7 godly brew were emptied. The strong wine turned into a pure force that rose and fell in his body, before being absorbed by the Martial Highness crystal. Did he just drink it all? The crowd was stunned, as if they were dreaming. Everyone knew that he was only a 5th-layer Martial Highness realm cultivator, but he was perfectly fine after drinking so much 7 godly brew? Thanks for the hospitality, Patriarch of the Luan clan. I'm still quite excited, so I'll be leaving first. With a kick, Qin Nan's figure turned into a puff of smoke as he left the place. The entire hall fell into a dead silence. Everything happened so quickly that they didn't even have time to react. When Cheng Jie collected his thoughts, he could feel a great pain in his heart. There was a total of 70 jars of 7 godly brew in the first round and the second round. Even the Luan clan could only produce 20 jars of 7 godly brew in a year. And now they had all been emptied. Not long after Qin Nan's departure, the incident that took place at the Dragon's Warm gathering swept the entire disordered ocean city like a storm. Did you hear? Zhu Heng and the 3 stars were defeated by Duan Qing. The 4 of them teamed up to challenge Duan Qing to a drinking contest, but none of them stood a chance against him. That's true, even the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance could not help but save Zhu Heng's life, as he could not bear to see him suffer a crushing defeat. The entire disordered ocean city was immersed in an uproar. Duan Qing might not have had a great reputation at first, but now everyone remembered him. As for Duan Qing, he swiftly returned to his room at the inn after his departure. That was impressive, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise said in a joyful tone. It did not expect Zhu Heng to lose to Duan Qing in drinking. No more nonsense, I'm going to cultivate first. Qin Nan sat cross-legged, and his mind quickly sank into meditation. The amount of 7 godly brew he had consumed was refined by the Martial Highness crystal into the force of the Martial Highness realm. As a result, he had accumulated 699 streams of the force of the Martial Highness realm in his body. The supremacy of the martial Tao, the supremacy is the greatest. With the power of the supremacy, one can control the world. A series of mystical words appeared in Qin Nan's mind. Even though the force of the Martial Highness realm was enough, he still needed to stabilize his cultivation before he could have a breakthrough. 6 hours later, A buzzing sound could be heard as a mysterious aura spread out from Qin Nan's body. 699 strands of Venerable One's power. He had completely advanced to the 6th layer of the Venerable Realm. Phew, I've finally reached the 6th layer Martial Highness realm. This trip to the All Dragons gathering wasn't in vain. Qin Nan let out a long sigh. His face was filled with joy. It was extremely difficult for the Martial Highness realm to rank up. It was all thanks to the 7 godly brew, Zhu Hang, and the others that he was able to rank up in one go. If Zhu Hang and the others were to know that his cultivation had ranked up, they would most likely vomit blood due to anger. Time to cultivate. I'll compete for the disordered ocean chi when the time comes. Qin Nan's expression did not change at all. Even though he had won against Zhu Hang by drinking, the cultivations of Zhu Hang and the 3 stars were too terrifying to be underestimated. He had to focus on his cultivation and make full use of every breath he had. Meanwhile, in the inn where the Trading Alliance was staying, the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance wore a stern expression as he snapped, "That's ridiculous! Still trying to unleash your martial spirit and continue drinking with Duan Qing? The disordered ocean is about to be activated. How great of a loss would it be if you were injured and failed?" The 3 stars stood at the back, not daring to utter a single word. Zhu Hang's face was sometimes gloomy and sometimes ashen. He had never thought that he would one day be defeated by a mere 5th-layer Martial Highness with an 8th-grade D-ranked martial spirit. However, he could not refute the Supreme Elder's words. "Once the disordered ocean is activated, I'll kill him with my own hands." Zhu Hang's eyes flickered ferociously. He had to avenge the humiliation he had suffered with his own hands. "Very well, that's the way it should be." The Supreme Elder nodded slightly. At the beginning, this Zhu Hang had never placed Duan Qing in his eyes. The setback he had suffered this time was both good and bad. The competition for the disordered ocean chi is about to take place. The Supreme Elder let out a sigh as his eyes flickered. "When the time comes, we'll make some preparations to reduce the amount of disordered ocean chi available to Duan Qing." Time gradually passed. 2 days were gone in the blink of an eye. During this period, Qin Nan had fully immersed himself in his cultivation. He would occasionally practice the disordered ocean art, stabilize his cultivation, or comprehend the sleeping Buddha method. His mind was now powerful enough, allowing him to shuttle between the different martial arts with ease. Dang dang dang. A series of rapid chimes could be heard coming from the disordered ocean city. At that instant, the eyes of countless rogue cultivators sprang open, as their eyes flickered with excitement. Many rogue cultivators would show up next year after hearing the news, but only a few thousand of them would be able to enter the disordered ocean chi. "Is it finally here?" Qin Nan mumbled to himself as his eyes flickered. Once he acquired the disordered ocean chi, he would be able to enter the disordered ocean chi of the Crimson Blood tribe. By then, he would be able to look for Senior Tang Qingshan and the others. He wondered how Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others were doing after they had ranked up to the martial sacred realm. "Let's go," the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise urged while lying on top of Qin Nan's head. Qin Nan nodded his head and exited the inn with a flicker. Meanwhile, all the cultivators of the disordered sea city were making their way toward the city lord's mansion. Before long, the city lord's mansion was filled with a sea of people. It was bustling with noise and excitement as all the heroes had gathered. So many people, Qin Nan held the badge in his hand as he led the crowd to the dojo of the city lord's mansion. The entire dojo was icy blue, as if it was made of water. It was extremely huge, and could at least accommodate tens of thousands of cultivators. And now, a quarter of such a huge dojo was occupied by cultivators. What a surprise, these people's cultivations are all so outstanding. Qin Nan stood at the back of the crowd in an inconspicuous manner. His eyes scanned the crowd continuously. With a rough glance, the weakest among them was only a peak martial dominator realm cultivator, which was quite rare. Most of them had reached the peak martial highness realm. The people of the Trading Alliance are over there. Qin Nan squinted his eyes. At the front of the dojo, the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance floated in midair, while behind him stood Zhu Hang, the 3 stars, and the rest of the disciples, resulting in a magnificent sight. The disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang Pavilion were incomparable to them. By the way, where's Jiang Bailan? Qin Nan immediately recalled the incident, and focused his attention on observing the scene. What's going on? Qin Nan could not help but frown. Jiang Bailan was nowhere to be seen among the experts. Jiang Bailan would not be able to enter the disordered ocean without competing for the disordered ocean chi. Why was she here at the disordered ocean city? Chapter 640. Geniuses remember love, go 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 little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 642, The Power of the Disordered Ocean Art Whoosh. A series of piercing sounds could be heard, which turned out to be disordered Qing Jie, the elders of the Luan clan, and the others. Love go little saith full text access. On both sides of the dojo, the disciples of the Luan clan stared with their eyes open wide, not willing to miss out on the slightest detail. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization after seeing this. The battle between the cultivators for the disordered ocean chi was no doubt going to be an exciting one. The Luan clan was using this opportunity to let their disciples learn as much as possible. It's time for the disordered ocean art to be activated again. Chaos Qingjie, welcome all heroes to our Chaos Sea City. Let's not waste any more time, we'll activate the artifacts to absorb the disordered ocean chi. It all depends on your capabilities to acquire the disordered ocean chi. Disordered Qingjie uttered a roar. Following this, a giant copper cauldron rose from his back. The surface of the cauldron was icy blue, as if it had come from the ocean. It also emitted a chaotic aura. The force of the martial highness realm in disordered Qing Jie's body was rapidly inserted into the cauldron. At that instant, streams of icy blue aura flew out from the cauldron. As soon as the aura flew out, Qin Nan's body became restless, which was the result of the disordered ocean art. So this is the disordered ocean chi? Qin Nan withheld his thoughts and took a closer look. Whoosh! The streams of disordered ocean chi sprang into the sky like waves, before they transformed into dragons that swam rapidly on the dojo. It was extremely difficult for ordinary people to catch them. With a rough glimpse, there were at least tens of thousands of streams of disordered ocean chi being emitted. Why are there so many of them? Qin Nan was startled. Damn it, look at how forgetful I am. I forgot to tell you that the more chaotic ocean chi one obtains, the more advantages one will have in the chaotic ocean. Qin Nan, activate the cultivation method given to you by the princess. The kingdom protector Black Tortoise slapped its head with its claw and blurted out. Meanwhile, as if it was aware of something, its gaze locked onto the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance's gaze. The Supreme Elder's figure shuddered violently. It seemed like it was impossible for him to interfere. I see. Qin Nan came to his senses and looked at the training hall. Boom. Meanwhile, every cultivator on the Blue Dojo was on the move. Powerful martial arts, ancient martial arts, martial spirits, and artifacts were unleashed from their bodies, resulting in a brilliant glow. Their figures shuttled back and forth like lightning bolts while grabbing the chi of the disordered ocean, engaging in fierce battles with one another. The entire battle was extremely shocking. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a flicker as he observed the movements of everyone within a few hundred meters. He took a step forward and arrived at a tricky spot. No one was aware of his presence, and no one dared to attack him. Let's try the disordered ocean art. Qin Nan executed the disordered ocean art in his body, causing his body to emit a series of roaring waves. Qing Jie and the elders of the disordered clan were startled, as their eyes were filled with confusion. It felt like they had just sensed a powerful ancient water-type martial art. F***Kmi. Qin Nan was dumbfounded after executing the sea manipulation art. It was as if his divine sense had transformed into a giant net that descended from the sky, encapsulating the streams of disordered ocean qi within it. As long as he willed it, it was as if he could absorb all of the chaotic sea qi into his body. Isn't this disordered ocean art a bit too powerful? Qin Nan was startled. It seemed like the princess had purposely found this ancient martial art just for him. Forget it, there are so many cultivators trying to enter the disordered ocean art. I can't possibly stop them from following me. What I need to do now is to find Tang Qingshan and the others and prevent them from being discovered. Qin Nan shook his head and gave up on the thought of absorbing all the disordered ocean qi. With a thought, he grabbed 10 streams of disordered ocean qi and absorbed them into his body. The process took place extremely quickly. The cultivators had no idea what was happening. After storing the disordered ocean qi, Qin Nan prepared to leave the dojo. There was no need for him to participate in the battle. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 piercing sounds could be heard, which turned out to be Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng. In just less than 2 breaths' time, more than 20 disciples of the Trading Alliance arrived at the dojo. Duan Qing, are you trying to acquire the disordered ocean qi? Not on my watch. Du Ping let out a ferocious laugh as he took a step forward and unleashed a tremendous aura. The disciples in all directions moved along with him. At that instant, it was as if the crowd had formed a powerful formation, leaving Qin Nan with nowhere to run. My cultivation is no longer the same as before. Do you really think you can stop me? Since your Supreme Elder is here, I won't fight you all. We'll have some fun once we enter the disordered ocean art. Qin Nan let out a hollow laugh as his left eye of the divine god of battle emitted a thunderous glow, peeking through the figures of the cultivators. At that instant, he began to make his move. His figure weaved through the attacks with ease like a Tao-seeking fish, leaving a series of afterimages behind. Before Du Ping and the others could react, he had escaped from their encirclement with ease. What's going on? How did his cultivation become stronger all of a sudden? Du Ping and the others were startled. Back at the All Dragons League, they were still able to suppress Duan Qing. Crap, we can't let him escape. Shi Ping reacted. His eyes flashed as he shouted, "What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? You just need to stop him." Hearing the words, the rogue cultivators in the crowd immediately turned their heads and stared at Qin Nan's figure. Their eyes flickered with a ferocious look. "Cultivator Duan Qing, I'm sorry. We'll only stop you for a while. We won't hurt you." "I'm so sorry." As the rogue cultivators spoke, they stomped the ground and charged in Qin Nan's direction. It turned out that the Trading Alliance had secretly spent a huge sum of money to acquire the support of these rogue cultivators, allowing them to attack Duan Qing on the dojo. Although Duan Qing's status was quite high, these rogue cultivators were all fugitives with no fixed abode. Even if the sky-scorching ancient kingdom was infuriated, they would not be able to do anything to them. Therefore, they were not worried at all. Du Ping and the others let out hollow laughs as they led their disciples toward Duan Qing once again. Nice one, Trading Alliance. These people are nice too. They are willing to sacrifice so much just to prevent me from acquiring more disordered ocean qi. If that's the case, don't blame me for showing no mercy. Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly seeing this. Initially, he was not planning to acquire too much disordered ocean qi, but since the Trading Alliance and these rogue cultivators were trying to stop him, he immediately unleashed the displeasure in his heart. Since you don't want me to acquire the disordered ocean qi, I'm going to take more. Disordered ocean art. Qin Nan uttered a roar as the disordered ocean art in his body was unleashed. In that instant, the remaining chaotic sea chi seemed to have been captured by an invisible force. Come here at once. Chapter 641. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 643. The ancient battlefield. After the series of battles, there were only over 6,000 streams of disordered ocean chi left on the dojo. Advertisement. Access. Meanwhile, the cultivators were still making their move. The Trading Alliance and the rogue cultivators were flanking Qin Nan like two armies. Bang! A rare occurrence took place, as a sudden explosion took place, causing the disordered ocean chi to surge toward Qin Nan's location as if it was being sucked in by a great force. This is, the expressions of Luan Qingjie and the people from the Luan family changed drastically upon hearing this. The crowd halted their actions and subconsciously turned their heads around. Following a glimpse, they were dumbfounded. All the disordered ocean chi had been absorbed into Qin Nan's body. Not a single stream was left. How is this possible? The same thought popped up in the minds of Chaos Qingjie, the supreme elder of the Trading Alliance, Zhu Hang, and the rest of the rogue cultivators. Even the disciples of the Trading Alliance, led by Du Ping and the rogue cultivators, stared with their eyes open wide, leaving them in awe. That was a total of over 6,000 streams of disordered ocean chi. How did he manage to devour them all? Hee, now that I've acquired the disordered ocean chi, I won't be wasting my time with you all. Qin Nan let out a hollow laugh. Under the crowd's gaze, he landed on the dojo as if nothing had happened to him. Could that be? Only Chaos Qingjie and the elder of the Luan clan immediately thought of a possibility. The fact that he was able to absorb all the disordered ocean chi indicated that he had mastered some kind of ancient water-type martial art that was related to the disordered ocean chi of the Crimson Blood tribe. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to do so. Everyone, don't let him take all the disordered ocean chi away. Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng collected their thoughts and uttered furious roars. The rogue cultivators were instantly awakened, especially those who did not manage to get the disordered oceanic chi. Their eyes were burning with anger. Duan Qing, how could you take so much disordered ocean chi on your own? Hand over the disordered ocean chi. We won't let you take it. With the three sons of Du Ping fanning the flames, the cultivators on the dojo were on the verge of going berserk. Their gazes were locked onto Qin Nan as they unleashed their auras and charged toward him like a terrifying army. How bold of you all! At that instant, a furious roar shook the heavens and earth. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise floating in the air expanded rapidly. It turned into an enormous creature in the blink of an eye, shrouding a huge shadow. Its eyes the size of bells glanced down at the crowd with a sacred aura. If you dare to take a step closer, I'll kill you. The roar shook the entire place. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured onto the furious Du Ping's three sons and the crowd of rogue cultivators, who instantly collected their thoughts. Their eyes were filled with great terror. Duan Qing was escorted by the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise. Everyone, goodbye. Qin Nan wore a calm expression. He had only planned to take 10 streams of the disordered ocean chi, but the Trading Alliance and the rogue cultivators were trying to stop him. If that was the case, he would not show any mercy. As for the crowd's anger? What a joke! Since when was he afraid? Whoosh! Qin Nan's figure landed on top of the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise's head with a flicker. His black robe flapped wildly as an imperious aura was unleashed, as if an emperor had arrived. Roar! The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise uttered another roar facing the crowd, resulting in a strong gust of wind that knocked the rogue cultivators to the ground. Its figure then flew toward the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe. After acquiring the disordered ocean chi, all that was left was to wait for the opening of the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe. Duan Qing. Zhu Heng, whose face was filled with shock, regained his wits. His expression became incomparably gloomy. He did not expect Duan Qing to have such a trick up his sleeve while being surrounded by the crowd. Everyone has acquired the disordered ocean chi, right? The Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance glanced at the crowd and asked. After receiving the response, he immediately said, "Let's go." He flung his robe, causing a sacred glow to be emitted as he brought Zhu Heng, the 3 stars, and the others into the distance. "Let's go. Damn, even a martial sacred realm expert is here. Sigh, we won't be able to make it this time." The rogue cultivators collected their thoughts. Many who had acquired the disordered ocean chi immediately flew toward the direction of the disordered ocean chi. As for those who did not acquire the disordered ocean chi, they could only let out sighs and accept the reality. Patriarch, an elder of the disordered clan, suddenly spoke. Ching Jie's figure shuddered as he snapped as a thought crossed his mind. "Quick, tell the disordered wind to prepare to head to the disordered ocean chi. Remember, no matter what, you have to help Duan Qing." Roger. The people of the disordered clan immediately made their move. Only Ching Jie wore a blank expression as he mumbled to himself. Who would have thought that such a day would actually come? I'm not sure if it's a blessing or a curse. However, with your help and the disordered ocean chi, our Luan clan has accumulated a lot of resources. Ching Jie suddenly let out a groan as blood flowed out from his lips. The mysterious bronze cauldron in his body had disappeared, and he had no idea where it had gone. Meanwhile, at the shore of the disordered ocean, Qin Nan stood on the black tortoise's head and glanced upward. He immediately saw a boundless ocean surrounded by a faint barrier, as if it was isolated from the rest of the world. "It's not activated yet?" Qin Nan glanced at the people of the Trading Alliance behind him before he closed his eyes and began to practice the sleeping Buddha method. He had to focus fully in order to improve his future. As for Zhu Heng, the 3 stars, and the rest of the geniuses, their eyes flickered with murderous intent after seeing Qin Nan's performance, especially Zhu Heng. Including the last time they drank together, in a sense, he had already lost to Duan Qing twice. Meanwhile, the eyes of the rogue cultivators flickered as they waited in silence. Time gradually passed. After half the period it took an incense to burn had passed, a series of explosions could be heard coming from deep within the chaotic crimson blood ocean, which grew louder and louder as time went by. Qin Nan's eyes sprang open and stared at the disordered ocean chi with the same reaction as the crowd. A shocking sight took place. On the surface of the ocean, the water began to rumble vigorously, as if something enormous was about to surface from the bottom of the ocean. Then, with a loud crash, an ancient pitch-black piece of land rose up from the deep sea. This, Qin Nan's eyes widened. From afar, the land looked like a black spot, but through his left eye of the divine god of battle, he could tell that the land covered an area with a circumference of at least 10,000 li. On top of that, a faint murderous aura could be felt coming from the land. This was actually an ancient battlefield. Crack. A cracking sound could be heard all of a sudden. It appeared that a crack had appeared on the barrier encapsulating the ocean, allowing them to enter the chaotic blood ocean through the crack. Whoosh! Near the gap, the water began to rumble, forming several golden boats. On each boat stood a black figure holding an oar, as if they were waiting for something in silence. The disordered ocean chi had been activated. P.S. Seriously recommending the fantastic fantasy book, The Unparalleled Celestial Emperor, written by the evildoer classmate. Now, the Unparalleled Celestial Emperor is having an activity. As long as you enter the circle of the Unparalleled Celestial Emperor and post a comment, you will be able to participate in the lottery. There are a total of 1,500 entries, and each entry will be rewarded with 100 mooncakes. Promotion period. January 30th, February 3rd, extremely high chance of winning. Everyone, remember, it's the Peerless Heaven Emperor written by the drunkard. Don't enter the wrong entry. When leaving your comments, remember to include the words army of monsters, army of battle spirits, etc. The chance of winning will be doubled. I hope that everyone who supports the evildoer will support the book written by the evildoer student. Please reads. Chapter 642. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 644. The Power of the Crystal, the Mysterious Woman. So this is the chaotic crimson blood ocean? Senior, what's going on? Chin Nan wore a blank expression. This chaotic crimson blood ocean was completely different from what he had imagined. Full reading 79 XS cough cough, I forgot to tell you. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise wore an awkward expression as it said, according to the rumors, a great battle took place in the Eastern continent during the Ancient Era, resulting in the deaths of many experts. We call it the Ancient Battlefield, and it is said that the succession of the chaotic crimson blood ocean is related to this ancient battlefield. I see. Chin Nan came to a realization. At that instant, under Zhu Hang's lead, the people of the Trading Alliance landed on the Jade Boat with a flicker. Chin Nan brought his fists together toward the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, before his figure landed on the Golden Boat. The rest of the rogue cultivators followed suit. This guy, after Chin Nan landed on the boat, the black figure began to steer the boat toward the ancient battlefield. Something's not right. Chin Nan scanned the boat with his left eye of the divine god of battle, but was unable to see through the mysterious figure. Following this, Chin Nan's boat gradually moved away from the other boat. The surrounding blood-red water was covered in a layer of white mist, preventing them from seeing their surroundings. It seems like everyone's position is random. Chin Nan let out a sigh of relief. If they were at the same entrance, he would have no choice but to use the thunderous orb and the explosive flame talisman to defend himself, as that would expose the fact that he had stolen the treasure. A while later, the golden boat arrived at the edge of the land. Thanks, Senior. Chin Nan brought his fists together toward the black figure, before landing on the ground. When he turned his head around, the black figure raised its head and looked at him with a smile, before disappearing into thin air. Please read this book. Everything is very strange. We must remain vigilant. Chin Nan's figure tensed as he scanned his surroundings with his left eye of the divine god of battle. This piece of land was charred black, and it was filled with deep and shallow ravines. Within the ravines, some kind of sword will and fist will were faintly emitted. When a gentle breeze blew past, it would roll up a whistling sound. It was a clear indication of the devastation of the great battle back then. After observing for a while and finding no danger, Chin Nan immediately communicated with the Copper Mirror. Senior, I'm currently in the primeval battlefield of the Chaotic Sea. I need to know the location of Tang Qingshan and the others. I need your help. If you're willing to help, I'm sure I'll be very excited. If you have any requests, feel free to state them. His words were sincere and sincere. This time, the Copper Mirror finally reacted. It emitted a flicker as an icy female voice echoed, "Wait! Wait! What were they waiting for? What does that mean?" Chin Nan was startled. He immediately asked, but the Copper Mirror remained silent no matter how hard he tried. "Screw you," Chin Nan was left speechless. "Why did you say wait all of a sudden?" Senior Xian Wu did mention that the mysterious succession is somehow related to the entire primeval battlefield. Therefore, there must be a way to enter the succession here. I'll have to find it myself. Chin Nan instantly made up his mind. There was no way he could wait any longer, nor could he just sit there and wait for his death. Whoosh! His figure turned into a blur as he moved rapidly on the primeval battlefield. This is. Qin Nan halted in his tracks and flicked his finger, sending a layer of soil flying. Inside the soil was a black-blue skeletal hand. Despite being a long time ago, he could still sense a powerful intent flowing within the skeletal hand. I'm afraid the owner of this skeletal hand was a conjoined entity. The hardness of the skeletal hand alone is comparable to a half-sacred weapon, not to mention the intent contained within it. Senior, excuse me. Qin Nan reached out his hand and grabbed the skeletal hand. How could he not pick up the treasure when he had stumbled into it? At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. The Martial Highness crystal in Qin Nan's dantian began to vibrate. Qin Nan was startled. Before he could react, the Martial Highness crystal unleashed a strong absorption force and dragged the skeletal hand toward it. Following a soft thud, it was as if the Martial Highness crystal had come alive, which emitted lines that wrapped around the skeletal hand. Phew phew. The Martial Highness crystal continued to absorb the skeletal hand like a starving wolf. In just a few breaths' time, the force contained within the skeletal hand was completely devoured. Although the force of the Martial Highness realm in Qin Nan's body did not increase, his aura was significantly stronger than before. Qin Nan was astounded seeing this. Could it be that the Martial Highness crystal is able to devour anything? Last time, it was the magical wine, and this time, it's the force contained within the skeletal hand. Gasp! As he collected his thoughts, he could not help but inhale deeply. If that was the case, the Martial Highness crystal was too laudifying. Roar! A sense of danger arose in Qin Nan's heart all of a sudden. Qin Nan immediately turned around and saw an illusionary ancient alligator tearing at him with its mouth wide open. Break! Qin Nan uttered a roar as a giant bell was summoned and struck it, shattering the ancient alligator into pieces. This ancient alligator has no problem killing an ordinary third-layer Martial Highness realm cultivator. It must be the remnant aura of the battle that took place in the past, resulting in a spiritual body. Qin Nan mumbled to himself. No wonder this ancient battlefield was filled with both dangers and fortunate encounters. At that instant, a strange feeling arose in Qin Nan's heart. Someone's targeting me. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold, but his expression remained unchanged as he continued to move forward. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, a shocking sword glow could be seen coming from deep within the rift, which was fired in Qin Nan's direction with an icy aura. The sword was fired with a ferocious aura. Burn! The phoenix soul-consuming fire was instantly ignited on Qin Nan's figure, forming a wall of flames to resist the attack. In the nick of time, Qin Nan immediately turned around while his left eye emitted a thunderous glow, which weaved through the incoming attack. His giant hand reached out and grabbed his opponent's neck like a phantom. Don't you dare move, or else die. As expected, the person before him did not move. Qin Nan finally reacted. The neck that his hand was grabbing was soft and smooth. Qin Nan could not help but inspect the person before him. Her face was fair, her skin smooth, her hair was tied up in a bun, and she was wearing a scholar's hat. Her eyes were filled with an icy look. It turned out that the person who had launched the sneak attack was a woman. Furthermore, she was very beautiful. Duan Qing, please don't misunderstand. I'm here to help you. The woman's eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation before she spoke in a cold tone, as if Qin Nan owed her something. Help me? Who are you? Qin Nan wore a hollow grin. She was trying to kill him, yet she claimed that she was here to help him? However, he was not in a rush to kill her, as the woman possessed a cultivation of the 6th layer Martial Highness realm. Her martial spirit was 8th grade D ranked, and her body contained a stream of mysterious force. Her strength was surely enough to make her famous on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Chapter 643. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 645, The Map of the Disordered Ocean, A Shocking Rare Occurrence. Luan Clan? Chin Nan was startled, before he let out a hollow laugh. Kill you? 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit, 6th layer martial highness realm, and a mysterious force in your body. If I'm not mistaken, you have at least 5 ways to escape from me. Now, stop wasting my time. Tell me what you're trying to achieve. You might be strong, but you're no match against me. You've seen through it all? The woman's icy face was filled with astonishment. Not many people on the Hidden Dragon ranking could match his eye technique alone. Click here to read a book. That's fast. Take a look at this imaging stone. The woman fell silent for a moment, before she took out a stone and tossed it into the air, which immediately summoned a screen. A figure appeared on the screen, who turned out to be the patriarch of the Luan clan, Luan Qingjie. Cultivator Duan Qing. Long story short, our Luan clan has been able to stay strong in the disordered ocean for a few hundred years because we've found a treasure that is able to absorb the qi of the disordered ocean. It also possesses a powerful aura, which helped us to repel the prying eyes of martial sacred realm experts. Before we found the treasure, we found a scroll beside it, which contained a stream of divine sense and many water elemental ancient martial skills. It also mentioned that if anyone with stronger water elemental ancient martial skills were to steal the qi of the disordered ocean, the Luan clan would have to provide full assistance. I've already sent Luan Feng to find you. After Chaos Qingjie finished speaking, his figure disappeared. Chin Nan immediately came to a realization. He did not expect the disordered ocean art that the princess had given him to be related to the secrets of the Luan clan. Luan Feng, right? I don't need your help. Chin Nan let go of his grip and prepared to leave. Wait! Luan Feng stomped her foot and arrived before Chin Nan with a flicker, before she said in a cold tone, I don't want to help you either, but it's the patriarch's order. I have a map here, which records 80% of the fortunate encounters in the ancient battlefield. Are you sure you don't need my help? 80% of the fortunate encounters? Chin Nan's heart skipped a beat. Love go little say, W2 click here to read a book. Previously, he had discovered that the martial highness crystal was able to devour the finger bone. If he could find all the fortunate encounters, his strength would surely skyrocket. Apart from that, he could also find the monarch's succession monarch done. How do you expect me to believe you? Chin Nan calmly said. I, Luan Feng, swear to the heavens that if I dare to harm Duan Qing, I'll be struck by lightning and never be reincarnated. Luan Feng immediately swore an oath to the heavens and earth, before his body relaxed slightly. His eyes were filled with disdain as he said, Leave a mark on my divine sense. If I attack you, you can easily destroy my divine sense. Chin Nan did not expect this Luan Feng to be so straightforward. He waved his hand and said, Forget about the divine sense. Luan Feng's eyes flickered hearing this before Chin Nan asked, Why did you attack me just then? I'm trying to see how strong you are. If it's weak, I won't help you even if it means going against the Luan clan. Luan Feng said in a cold tone. The map that was kept by the Luan clan had been used to record the fortunate encounters of the Luan clan over a few hundred years. However, the Luan clan was rarely interested in it, as it was meant to assist the person who was guiding the qi of the ocean according to the instructions given by the artifact. In Luan Feng's eyes, the request was utterly ridiculous, and she did not believe it at all. However, she could not disobey her father's will, thus she had no choice but to take on the responsibility. If Chin Nan's cultivation was not strong enough, there was no way she would hand over the map. I see. Chin Nan nodded. Here's the map. Luan Feng handed her a jade slip. Chin Nan glanced at the map and discovered that it was marked with over 2,000 fortunate encounters of various sizes, which were glittering like stars in the sky. Who would have thought that I would be able to receive the help of the Luan clan? Once I'm stronger, I should repay them if I have the chance. Qin Nan made up his mind. His advancement to the 6th layer Martial Highness realm and the map were all thanks to the Luan clan. Let's go, there's a fortunate encounter 3 li away. With a kick, Qin Nan's figure sprang forward like a puff of smoke, without wasting any time with Luan Feng. Luan Feng stared at his back for a moment before following behind him. Along the way, Qin Nan had slain a few beasts, allowing him to learn how useful the disordered ocean chi was. Not only was it able to prevent him from being affected by the aura of the ancient battlefield, it could also improve the strength of his disordered ocean art. Here we are. Qin Nan halted in his tracks and saw a deep pit in front of him. The pit was pitch black, and he could faintly hear the roars of beasts coming from it. Furthermore, there were a few flowers at the bottom of the pit, which were stained with crimson blood, resulting in an eerie aura. The demonic sunflower is extremely beneficial to one's cultivation, but it used to be before Luan could finish. Qin Nan's figure leapt into the pit and unleashed countless flames, destroying the spirits of the beasts while plucking the demonic sunflowers. Please listen to what I have to say next time before you make a move. Luan Feng wore an unpleasant expression as she snapped. These demonic sunflowers were once stained with demonic blood, causing them to be demonized. Only a martial sacred realm expert can purify them. Otherwise, you shouldn't consume them at all. Otherwise, Qin Nan let out a calm smile. At that instant, the martial highness crystal in his body began to operate vigorously, emitting an attractive force that dragged the demonic sunflower into his body and devoured it. Duan Qing, you. Luan Feng's expression changed. She never thought that Duan Qing wouldn't listen to her at all. Was he trying to get himself killed? Whoosh. The force of the martial highness realm in Qin Nan's body increased by 6 streams before it came to a stop. Both the force of the petals and the force of the demonic blood were devoured by it. He waited for another breath, then another 2 breaths. After 10 breaths, Luan Feng's face finally showed a hint of astonishment as she said, Why was this Duan Qing perfectly fine? Was he able to ignore the effect of the demonic sunflowers? Next place, Qin Nan calmly said as he prepared to make his move. However, a rare occurrence took place all of a sudden. Buzz buzz buzz. A faint vibration could be felt coming from the ground. Qin Nan immediately saw the rocks and broken armor in the surroundings trembling slightly. What's going on? Qin Nan was startled. Even Luan Feng was stunned. She had lived beside the chaotic ocean for a few hundred years and had entered the ancient battlefield countless times, but she had never seen anything like this. In addition to them, Zhu Hang and the others scattered across the ancient battlefield, and thousands of rogue cultivators frowned too. Bang bang bang. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble violently as if it had gone mad. The entire ground began to shake vigorously, with cracks appearing on its surface, resulting in a shocking scene. What's going on? Qin Nan was startled. The entire battlefield is shaking vigorously. For some reason, Luan Feng's voice was filled with astonishment. What? The entire battlefield? Qin Nan held his breath as he immediately recalled how Jiang Bailan had disappeared after she had appeared, and the copper mirror had mentioned wait. What exactly was going to happen? Bang! At this moment, at the center of the battlefield, a beam of dazzling white light soared into the sky like an immemorial giant dragon. It tore apart the countless illusions and forcibly pierced through the light screen that enveloped the entire ocean, sending it directly into the endless void. The entire ancient battlefield was experiencing a tremendous change. Chapter 644. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Shua Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 646. The Storm of the Eastern Continent, The Appearance of the Door of Creation. Meanwhile, Zhu Heng, the 3 stars, and the rest of the rogue cultivators raised their heads and stared at the beam of light at the center of the ancient battlefield in astonishment. Please read the full article. For more information, visit www. What is that? Qin Nan's heart skipped a beat. Through his left eye of the divine god of battle, he could see a terrifying force within the beam of light. The force had surpassed the martial sacred realm. Dang! A sound similar to the chime of a Dao bell echoed in the ancient battlefield, spreading into the ears of the crowd in all directions. At the center of the ancient battlefield, the giant beam of light suddenly exploded into white light dots, which rapidly accumulated into a giant white door that stood firmly on the ground, penetrating the clouds. Even if they were thousands of miles away, or even tens of thousands of miles away, they could still see the white door when they raised their heads. Door? Why would there be a door here? Luan Feng, do you know what's going on? Qin Nan collected his thoughts and immediately glanced at Luan Feng. Over the past few hundred years, we never knew that there was a door on the ancient battlefield. The only possibility is that the mysterious succession has appeared. Luan Feng blurted out as her eyes flickered with excitement. The mysterious succession of the Crimson Blood Tribe's disordered ocean. It had only been a rumor in the eastern continent for a few hundred years, but it had never appeared before. Did it really appear this time? Come, let's head there. Qin Nan pondered upon hearing this, before he immediately made up his mind. He recalled that the copper mirror had mentioned wait. Was it referring to the appearance of the succession? There were still too many doubts for now. Let's head to the door first. Sure. Luan Feng nodded her head as their figures dashed forward. Advertisement. In addition to that, Zhu Heng and the others who were roaming around the ancient battlefield, as well as the rogue cultivators, had all made up their minds and headed straight toward the center of the battlefield. At the same time, Chaotic Sea City, the City Lord's mansion. Patriarch, our decision this time. One of the elders wanted to say something, but hesitated. I know what you want to say. Luan Qingjie looked at the elders and said calmly, giving up the map really pained me. However, we can't disobey the instructions in the Jade Slip. Otherwise, it might bring disaster to our Luan family. As soon as he said this, a loud explosion could be heard coming from the chaotic ocean of the Crimson Blood Tribe. Everyone present was shaken to the core. What happened? Chaos, Qingjie, and the other elders all rose to their feet and walked out of the hall. They looked up and saw the pillar of light shooting up into the sky. They also saw the pillar of light shattering and slowly condensing into a huge white door. Everyone's hearts were instantly struck by lightning. What's going on? Could it be that the succession has appeared? My God, it's been a few hundred years. Why would it appear now? Luan Qingjie was lost for words. It had not appeared for a few hundred years. Why would it appear now? Could it be because of that young man? Luan Qingjie collected his thoughts. Not long after, the entire Luan clan and the chaotic ocean city were immersed in astonishment. The incident at the Crimson Blood Tribe's chaotic ocean swept the entire eastern continent like a storm. At that instant, the entire eastern continent was immersed in an uproar. The succession of the Crimson Blood Tribe's chaotic ocean has appeared. Gasp, who would have thought that there would be a succession at that place? Come, let's head there at once. According to the rumors, whoever obtains the succession will be able to reach the peak of the eastern continent. Apart from the rogue cultivators, the Trading Alliance, the sky-scorching Ancient Kingdom, the Dao-seeking Mountain, and the Wanxiang Pavilion were astounded. The authorities immediately held meetings and gave out orders. An hour later, on the beach beside the Crimson Blood Tribe's chaotic ocean, the entire Luan family, as well as all the independent cultivators in the city, all gathered and looked up at the white door of light on the ancient battlefield. Bang! Following a loud crash, the space was shattered into pieces. Following this, a pleasant scent swept toward the crowd. All the cultivators turned their heads and immediately saw a group of beautiful women in fine gauze walking out of the void with laughter. They had beautiful bodies, a mesmerizing fragrance, delicate facial features, and fair skin. The one leading the group wore a veil, but her eyes were glowing like the starry sky, causing the heavens and earth to dim in comparison. The Wanxiang Pavilion. The disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion are here. Isn't the one leading the group, Luosha, ranked 14th on the Hidden Dragon ranking? What? You Luosha? She's here in person. The crowd was immersed in an uproar. Ranked 14th on the Hidden Dragon ranking, with a 9th grade D ranked martial spirit and a cultivation of the 6th layer martial highness realm. She was a genius who had suddenly risen in the eastern continent in the past year. You people of the Wanxiang Pavilion are pretty quick about it. An aged voice could be heard coming from the other side of the rift. Following this, the rift was suddenly grabbed by a giant hand, as several young men walked out from it. Each of them had a formidable aura. They are the disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain. That guy is ranked 25th on the Hidden Dragon ranking, Guanyu. The young man beside Guanyu is ranked 20th on the Hidden Dragon ranking, Qiuji. Gasp, look at the first guy, he's ranked 10th on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Yang Gong. A series of astonished voices could be heard on the beach. The faces of the rogue cultivators were filled with astonishment. In just a few short hours, a total of 4 people on the Hidden Dragon roll had gathered here. Moreover, 2 of them were even ranked in the top 15. Including Zhu Hang, who had taken part in the ancient battlefield, there were 3 of them in total. Senior brother Yang Gong, it's been a while. The leader of the Wanxiang Pavilion, Yu Luosha, let out a smile under the veil, like 100 blooming flowers. Yeah, it's been a while. I heard that the guy is in the ancient battlefield. Yang Gong, who was dressed like a scholar, said with a calm smile. He was wearing a blue robe and carrying a wooden basket on his back. Inside the wooden basket were mysterious books, 9 of them in total. The geniuses of the 2 factions did not show any hostility toward each other. Yang Gong, Zhu Hang, Yuluosha, Qiuji, Guanyu, Duanqing, Du Ping, Duyuan, Du Feng, Luan Feng. Luan Qingjie stood among the crowd and mumbled to himself, as his figure began to tremble vigorously. A total of 10 geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking had come to the chaotic blood ocean. Furthermore, there were more than that. As soon as the news was spread, other extraordinary rogue cultivators would also come to the chaotic blood ocean. In other words, Chapter 645. Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Go Divided by Little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 647. The Gathering of the Authorities, The Lone Eagle. The Shore of the Crimson Blood Ocean. A love go little say, W. Chu access. Bang, bang, bang. A series of auras of the martial sacred realm descended, as an old man with a sinister expression and a middle-aged woman wearing revealing clothes appeared on the shore. They were none other than Elder Een of the Wendao Elders and the Supreme Elder of the Wanxiang Pavilion. Greetings, it's been a while. The Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance, who had left a long time ago, hurried back after seeing the rare phenomenon. It has indeed been a while. Old Een and the middle-aged woman nodded slightly. Their eyes flickered slightly as they began to communicate with each other using their divine consciousness. Not long after, a roar could be heard, which turned out to be the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise. Duanqing, you're on your own this time. The Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise mumbled to itself. Initially, the sky-scorching Emperor and the others had planned to send Di Fengyun, Mu Qingye, and the others to assist Duanqing, but the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise had rejected the idea. In its opinion, the more geniuses there were, the better it would be for Duanqing's growth. The 4 great factions are here. The rogue cultivators on the shore were startled. Time gradually passed. More powerful rogue cultivators arrived at the eastern continent after hearing the news. The arrival of the rogue cultivators caused an uproar among the crowd, which even attracted the astonished gazes of the disciples of the Tao-seeking mountain and the Wanxiang pavilion. The four great factions were not the only powerful geniuses in the eastern continent. Whoosh! At that instant, the light barrier encapsulating the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe cracked open, as several golden boats appeared from it. However, this time, there were only 999 of them. Let's go! Yang Gong and Yu Luosha, the two geniuses, gave their orders and led the disciples of the two factions toward the golden boat. When Mian and the other itinerant cultivators saw this, they scrambled to cast their powerful spells and clashed with each other. However, they did not dare to compete with the people of the two major forces. After all, the four major forces were watching from behind. A loud cry could be heard all of a sudden. A black-robed man with wings and a body like a ray of light shot into the sky and landed on a golden boat. The golden boat immediately began to move forward. Not good. It's Lone Eagle. He actually went in. At that instant, the authorities of the Trading Alliance, the Tao-seeking mountain, and the Wanxiang pavilion were startled. Many of the factionless cultivators below were shocked. Lone Eagle? It's Lone Eagle. He's ranked 11th on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Lone Eagle is a lone wolf. I heard that he hates the people of the four great factions the most. He has killed at least 3 geniuses on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Wouldn't these geniuses be doomed if he went in? Many of the cultivators wore gloating looks on their faces. It was obvious that they were not fond of the four great factions either. Love go little sake W. Chu. Hearing this, the 3 authorities turned their heads around and scanned the crowd coldly, causing the crowd to fall silent. Although these geniuses do not have the disordered ocean chi, with their cultivations, they would be able to resist the pressure from the ancient battlefield. Duanqing, oh Duanqing, our entire Luan clan has placed all of our hopes on you. When Chaos Qingjie saw this, he clenched his fists tightly. Crimson Blood disordered ocean, ancient battlefield. Qin Nan and Luan Feng's figures swept across the place like 2 tornadoes. Many beasts along the way were crushed into pieces by the strong gusts of wind before they could even get close to the two. The pressure is getting stronger, Qin Nan mumbled to himself. The closer they were to the center of the ancient battlefield, the redder the color of the ground would be. Furthermore, they could sense a faint negative emotion penetrating their divine sense like the roar of a demon, which they had to rely on the disordered ocean chi to resist it. We're finally here. Qin Nan's eyes glistened as both his and Luan Feng's figures came to a stop. 1 mile in front of them, a huge white door towered into the heavens and earth, exuding a terrifying aura. At some point in time, a dojo that looked like it was paved with white jade had been formed under the white door, and it was only a few dozen miles wide. It seems like we can enter this door. Qin Nan and Luan Feng exchanged glances with one another, before they both entered the dojo with a flicker and headed straight for the white door. According to their speculation, the succession would be right behind the door. Bang! All of a sudden, an invisible force rippled out from 3 feet away from the white door. It was like a wall, and the two of them collided with it. Both of them were knocked back several steps by the rebounding force. Slash! Qin Nan uttered a groan as countless saber intents gathered and slashed downward. Another loud crash took place, causing the space to ripple like water, which soon calmed down. Strange, why can't we move forward? Qin Nan frowned. Since the door was open, it should be open for them to enter. Someone's here. Luan Feng shouted in a low voice. Qin Nan collected his thoughts and turned around. A cold grin appeared on his face following a glimpse. The 3 figures flying toward him were none other than Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng. Duanqing, you're here. The eyes of Du Ping and the others shrunk slightly when they saw the two, as their faces were filled with astonishment. Not long after, the trio collected their thoughts and laughed coldly. You chose not to take the path to heaven, but chose to come to hell instead. You were protected by the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise at the disordered Ocean City. Let's see who's going to protect you this time. At that instant, a terrifying murderous intent burst out from their figures. Luan Feng, who was standing beside Qin Nan, slowly drew out an ancient bow with an expressionless face. A strong icy force was emitted from the bow. You are. Du Ping and the other two narrowed their eyes. They now noticed that this woman with a cold expression had a very powerful cultivation base. Could it be that she was Duan Qing's helper? Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Meanwhile, several powerful rogue cultivators had arrived at the scene. They were startled when they saw Du Ping's trio and Duan Qing's duo, before they immediately dashed toward the barrier. Without exception, they were all stopped by the invisible force. Who are you? Do you know that helping Duan Qing is equivalent to going against the entire trading alliance? Du Ping snapped. Duan Qing was already a tough opponent. If this icy woman were to join the fray, it would be a great effort to kill them both. Cut the crap. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with a ferocious look. Since the succession was taking place, it was better to kill as many of them as possible. Clank. A saber intent was unleashed. However, at that instant, a cold laugh could be heard coming from a distance away. As expected of Duan Qing, to be so scornful, daring to come here in broad daylight. Are you waiting for me? This voice came from afar and then came closer. It went from calm to cold. The crowd turned their heads around and was astounded. The person was none other than Zhu Heng. Chapter 646. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 648. Brothers meeting again. Zhao Feng's destiny changes. Judging from the current situation, there was no way he and Luan Feng would be able to defeat Zhu Heng and his crew. Please read the full article. For more information, please visit www. Only by using the thunderous orb and the explosive flame talisman would he be able to escape safely. However, as the succession was about to take place, there was no way he could leave now. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others have treated me like family. How could I leave just like that? Let's fight. No matter what, I won't back off. Qin Nan's eyes sharpened as his aura changed tremendously, like a sharp sword being drawn out from its sheath. Luan Feng's eyes flickered with astonishment. It was her first time seeing such an intimidating aura being emitted from this man's body. As for the rogue cultivators, they were gloating seeing this. When two tigers fought, one of them would surely be injured, thus they were more than happy to see the outcome. Kill! Zhu Heng did not waste any time as he spread out his fingers. At that instant, over 30 emperor weapons of various sizes were fired from his hand, which floated in mid-air and formed a huge formation, freezing the space in the surroundings before suppressing downward. Du Ping and his crew stomped their feet and unleashed their powerful attacks like 3 shining stars. Left arm of the divine god of battle. Qin Nan raised his left hand and pulled his right leg apart. As long as he was able to resist the attack, he would be able to unleash his martial spirit while his opponents were still in a daze. Either way, he had to kill as many as he could. At that instant, a terrifying aura swept across the dojo all of a sudden. Stop it! The 2 words were uttered as if they possessed a great power, resulting in a strong gust of wind. A giant illusionary figure stepped out from the white door. His eyes were pitch black and icy as he snapped, "No fighting is allowed on the dojo. Otherwise, you will die for sure." A murderous aura swept the surroundings. Dollar, cotton, flower candy talk. The figures of the 3 stars and Zhu Heng shuddered violently as their hearts were filled with coldness. They no longer dared to move forward with their attacks. There's actually a guardian spirit? Qin Nan was startled. With his left eye, he immediately discovered that the figure was formed by the entire ancient battlefield. However, unlike other beasts, its cultivation had reached the martial sacred realm. Duan Qing, consider yourself lucky this time. Zhu Hang gritted his teeth as a cold light flashed in his eyes. If he couldn't defeat Duan Qing, the humiliation in his heart would never dissipate. How could he allow a mere Duan Qing to continue behaving arrogantly in front of him? How could he allow a mere Duan Qing to continue behaving arrogantly in front of him? Senior, is this an inheritance? Qin Nan ignored the gazes of the others and asked, "What's the matter?" The crowd was startled, including Zhu Hang and the others. Wait! The guardian spirit did not even bother to look at Qin Nan. After uttering the words, it stood there in silence, like a warrior waiting for its orders. Wait! The minds of Qin Nan and the others were filled with doubts. What were they waiting for? Even so, they could not ask the guardian spirit's question after seeing its attitude. They could only stand there. A love go little say, W. Chu, let's wait then. Qin Nan exhaled deeply as he calmed his thoughts. What was going to happen? Everything that happened next would reveal the answer. Time gradually passed. The rogue cultivators of the ancient battlefield gradually arrived, including the disciples of the Trading Alliance. As a result, Zhu Hang's group grew stronger. What should we do now? Luan Feng snapped. If they were to attack at the same time, we won't stand a chance. Qin Nan glanced at Zhu Hang and the others and said calmly, "Don't worry. If a battle were to break out, he could just use the thunderous orb without hesitation. After all, he had already fallen out with the Trading Alliance." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. At that instant, a series of piercing sounds could be heard. The crowd was startled. Why was someone else here? Soon, they saw a scholar carrying a wooden basket on his back slowly walking toward them in the air. Furthermore, Guanyu, Qiuji, and the other geniuses of the Tao-seeking mountain had arrived too, as if they had agreed beforehand. Not only that, behind them were Yu Luosha and the other disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion, as well as a group of powerful rogue cultivators. The entire dojo was immersed in an uproar. What's going on? Yang Gong of the Tao-seeking mountain, Yu Luosha of the Wanxiang Pavilion, and Guanyu, Qiuji, and the other disciples, why are they all here? 4 of them are ranked on the Hidden Dragon ranking, and 2 of them are ranked in the top 15. F***K wasn't the disordered ocean closed? The rogue cultivators were dumbfounded. Even Zhu Hang, the 3 stars, and the others were startled. Even though Yu Luosha was no match against Zhu Hang, this Yang Gong was ranked 10th on the Hidden Dragon ranking. Even Zhu Hang was no match against him. However, they soon collected their thoughts. It must be because of the rare occurrence of the ancient battlefield that these geniuses were here. Yang Gong? Yu Luosha? Qin Nan was slightly startled. These 2 names sounded familiar to him. Duan Qing, this is bad. Both of them are extremely terrifying. Luan Feng's icy face stiffened as she hastily transmitted her voice to Duan Qing. Qin Nan ignored her words and unleashed his left eye of the divine god of battle. Following a glimpse, his figure shuddered violently. What Yang Gong? It was Gong Yang. As for this Yu Luosha, wasn't it Zhao Fang? Gong Yang is currently ranked 10th on the Hidden Dragon ranking with a 9th grade D ranked martial spirit. Zhao Fang is ranked 14th with a 9th grade D ranked martial spirit. They both altered their destinies. Qin Nan's eyes were filled with astonishment. Gong Yang had relied on the 9 symbolic words, but how did Zhao Fang alter his destiny? It was extremely difficult to alter one's destiny, and the 3rd prince of the sky-scorching ancient kingdom was the only one who had done it. Gong Yang, Zhao Fang, it's me. Qin Nan shook his head. He did not overthink it and transmitted his voice. Meanwhile, the entire white dojo was immersed in a great chaos, filled with discussions. Zhu Hang and the others immediately approached Gong Yang and Zhao Feng after collecting their thoughts. However, Gong Yang and Zhao Feng's figures shuddered violently as Qin Nan transmitted his voice. Qin Nan. It was Qin Nan. Haha, you're here. Gong Yang turned his head around and transmitted his voice with a joyful look. Junior brother Zhao Feng's eyes seemed to be filled with 1,000 words. The three of us can communicate with one another using our divine sense, but don't expose my identity. Who would have thought that you guys would be able to achieve so much in such a short period of time in the Eastern continent? Qin Nan wore a grin. Who said that there were no heroes in the lower district? Be it Gong Yang, Zhao Feng, Sima Kong, Long Hu, or Tang Qinshan, they were all from the lower district, like dragons that had entered the ocean and soared into the sky after encountering a storm. These people were considered extraordinary regardless of the era they were in. Kid. Gong Yang was left speechless. He had altered his destiny with the 9 symbolic words, thus he clearly knew what Qin Nan possessed. That was an existence that even the 9 symbolic words were terrified of. Altering your destiny, huh? Zhao Feng let out a sigh in his heart. So what if Qin Nan's destiny was altered? Some things were destined to happen and could not be changed. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. 2 beams of golden light shot out from the eyes of the guardian spirit as its oppressive aura rippled outward. There's no need to wait any longer. Those who are not here have no fate with this place. Now, congratulations to all of you. Chapter 647. Genius 1 Second. Remember love divided by little? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 649. The 3 Successions, the Heavenly Fortune Talisman. The faces of the geniuses and the rogue cultivators straightened without them realizing it. A love go little say, W. Chu. Quick update. Refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. Please leave a good review. Congratulations. For coming to the place where the 3 successions are located. The words of the guardian spirit served as a great explosion in the hearts of the crowd. As everyone knew, there was a mysterious succession under the ancient battlefield of the Crimson Blood Ocean. However, it seemed like there were 3 of them instead of 1. The first succession was left by the Crimson Blood Martial Ancestor. The second succession was left by the Disordered Ocean Martial Ancestor. Now these 2 successions have been claimed by someone else. The words of the guardian spirit served as a bucket of cold water being poured onto the crowd's heads. A look of astonishment appeared on everyone's faces. 2 of the martial ancestors' successions had been claimed by someone else? What was going on? The Crimson Blood Ocean had only just been activated. If I'm not mistaken, it's most likely the predecessors such as Tang Qinshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others. Qin Nan's eyes flickered. The others might find it a pity, but he did not feel the same way. After claiming the successions of the 2 martial ancestor, Tang Qinshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others would surely become martial Sacred Realm experts, who might even surpass the martial ancestor in the future. By then, they would be able to crush the Tao-seeking mountain. What about the 3rd succession? At that instant, Zhu Hang suddenly asked. The eyes of the crowd glistened too. If 2 of the martial ancestor successions had been claimed by a mysterious person, what would the 3rd succession be? Was it claimed by someone else? The 3rd succession has not been claimed by anyone. Refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. Please leave a good review. The words of the guardian spirit caused the crowd to feel relieved. Before it continued, the 3rd succession does not have any treasure, elixirs, martial arts, etc. It only has one thing, which is the Heavenly Fortune Talisman. What? At that instant, everyone including Gong Yang, Zhao Feng, and the rest were astounded. Heavenly Secret Talisman. The 3rd succession was the Heavenly Fortune Talisman. What's the heavenly fortune talisman? Only Qin Nan asked with a confused expression. You don't know? Luan Feng was stunned. It was the first time she had seen someone from the eastern continent who didn't know about the heavenly secret talisman. She said, You should know that there are all kinds of forbidden areas in the eastern continent, right? I know that. Qin Nan nodded his head. There were many forbidden grounds in the eastern continent. Among them, the chaotic Crimson Blood Ocean was relatively ordinary. This heavenly fortune talisman is related to the number 1 forbidden area of the eastern continent, the heavenly fortune path. Luan Feng took a deep breath as his eyes burned passionately. The heavenly fortune path is only accessible once every 10 years. It doesn't matter what your cultivation or martial spirit is, you won't be able to enter it. You must have the heavenly fortune talisman, and only 3 people in the eastern continent have it. They are the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd on the Hidden Dragon ranking. What? Qin Nan was shocked. The top 3 on the Hidden Dragon ranking were the top cultivators of the Upper District, who all possessed 10th grade D-ranked martial spirits. What exactly was so powerful about this heavenly fortune path? The heavenly fortune path is extremely mysterious and powerful. The 4 great factions barely know anything about it. We only know that once, a genius from the eastern continent of the lower district entered the heavenly fortune path and altered his destiny, which allowed him to become the Emperor Wu. He then proceeded to the middle continent and became one of the top authorities in the entire Kanglan continent. Luan Feng's eyes flickered with excitement. In the upper district's eastern continent, a martial sacred realm expert was considered a great authority. A martial ancestor realm expert was someone that could only be admired. As for the Emperor Wu realm, it was a realm that only existed in legends. Who wouldn't want to alter their destiny and become the Emperor Wu? Continent? I see. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization. His eyes remained calm, as he was not too interested in the heavenly fortune path. Altering one's destiny was nothing more than improving one's martial spirit's rank and strength. Meanwhile, his divine battle spirit was able to grow infinitely, thus even a Tian-ranked martial spirit was incomparable to it. Despite Qin Nan's reaction, it was different for the others. The eyes of the geniuses and the rogue cultivators burned passionately, as if they had turned into enraged beasts at that instant. This was the heavenly fortune talisman. Once acquired, one would be able to enter the heavenly fortune path with the top 3 cultivators on the Hidden Dragon ranking, and obtain the chance to alter one's destiny. Such temptation was something that even a genius like Zhu Heng was utterly unable to resist. Everyone, although the heavenly fortune talisman is precious, there's only one of it. Only one among you will have the chance to acquire it. The guardian spirit's voice turned cold. Furthermore, in order to acquire the heavenly fortune talisman, you will have to undergo a trial. Only by passing the trial will you be able to enter the glowing door and search for the heavenly fortune talisman. The cultivators on the scene immediately came to their senses and regained their calmness. The guardian spirit was right. Although the heavenly fortune talisman was precious, it would be extremely difficult to acquire it. Passing the trial will grant me access to the glowing door. Qin Nan mumbled to himself. The trial is very simple. The time limit is 1 month. I'll distribute a total of 5,000 blood jade tokens, and I'll scatter them across the various treasures in the primeval battlefield. Those who are ranked in the top 30 with the number of blood badges will be allowed to participate in the elimination rounds. The top 5 in the elimination rounds will be allowed to enter the glowing door and compete for the heavenly fortune talisman. The guardian spirit raised its hand and tapped its finger in the air. Following this, 5,000 crimson rays were fired at the same time, before disappearing into the rift at a terrifying pace, scattering in all directions of the ancient battlefield. After the period it takes an incense to burn, The formation on the dojo will activate and teleport each of you to different locations in the ancient battlefield. Remember, the time limit is 1 month. You must return to the dojo in a month's time. Otherwise, you will be disqualified. The guardian spirit said sternly while unleashing the suppression of the martial sacred realm. The hearts of all the cultivators present were shaken to the point that their hearts and minds were shaken. Meanwhile, at the beach of the Crimson Blood Ocean, the Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance, the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise, the Supreme Elder of the Wanxiang Pavilion, Old Een of the Tao-Seeking Mountain, and the rest of the crowd were still gathered here. Any news? The Supreme Elder of the Trading Alliance was surprised as he picked up a badge and scanned it. His expression changed tremendously as he blurted out, "What's going on? The succession in the Crimson Blood Ocean is a heavenly fortune talisman." The words served as a great explosion. Even the Kingdom Protector Black Tortoise's face was filled with great astonishment. Not long after, the news was spread among the 4 great factions like a storm. At that instant, the sky-scorching emperor, the leader of the Wanxiang Pavilion, Progenitor Wendao, and the leader of the Trading Alliance could no longer sit still and made their way to the disordered ocean city. The entire eastern continent was in an uproar at this moment. However, to everyone's surprise, in the lower district, the Luaha Kingdom, above the Xianling clan, a pagoda could be vaguely seen in the sky, which turned out to be the Martial Serendipity Pavilion. That old woman, did she discover something? Chapter 648. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 650 Zhu Hang. You can't mess with him. The heavenly fortune talisman was extremely precious. In just a short period of time, the entire disordered ocean city had become a gathering place for the authorities. However, no matter how hard the authorities tried, they were unable to observe the situation inside the chaotic ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe. They could only wait and come up with a plan. Meanwhile, at the center of the ancient battlefield, it did not take long for everyone to regain their senses after hearing the guardian spirit's words. The atmosphere of the place changed instantly, as if a wet handkerchief had been tightened. Those who were here had experienced countless battles, thus they all had their own trump cards. None of them could afford to underestimate anyone. 5,000 blood jades are scattered around the treasure locations. I happen to have the map given to me by the Luan clan, thus I can easily find the treasure locations. Not only will I be able to use the Martial Highness crystals to improve my cultivation, I'll also be able to find the blood jades. Qin Nan mumbled to himself as his gaze sharpened. There were over 4,000 people here. With the help of the map, it would not be a problem for him to enter the top 30 after acquiring the blood jade. However, after acquiring the blood jades, he would have to participate in the elimination round. Only 5 out of the 30 participants would be able to enter the glowing door. His only problem now was to improve his cultivation. The 6th layer Martial Highness realm was still too weak compared to the others. I'll look for you when the time comes, Luan Feng said to Qin Nan in a low voice, before her eyes closed as if she had fallen asleep. Qin Nan nodded his head. It did not matter if Luan Feng looked for him or not. At that instant, Zhu Hang suddenly spoke. Yang Gong, you Luosha, I've got something to discuss with you. The crowd frowned and turned their heads around. What were these 3 geniuses trying to do? Zhu Hang cast a cold glance at Qin Nan before transmitting his voice to Yang Gong, you Luosha, Guanu, and Qiuji. Everyone, I believe you all know who Duan Qing is. The Trading Alliance has long been at odds with him. Last time, he even robbed the Trading Alliance. It went without saying that Gong Yang and Zhao Fang were not in the mood to entertain him. However, after hearing his words, they squinted their eyes and listened. A while later, Gong Yang and Zhao Fang remained expressionless, while the disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion and the Tao-seeking mountain whispered with glistening eyes. This Zhu Hang was so extravagant. In order to deal with Duanqing, he was actually willing to pay such a huge price. Zhu Hang suddenly turned around facing the crowd and yelled, "Everyone, there's no need to explain the conflict between me and Duanqing. If any of you can capture him alive, remember, capture him alive. Therefore, the Trading Alliance will offer 3 sacred weapons as the reward. I won't go back on my word." The rogue cultivators were startled hearing this, before they glanced at Qin Nan with disdainful looks. 3 Saint Dao artifacts. The price was not cheap at all. Furthermore, it was only to capture Duanqing alive, thus the sky-scorching ancient kingdom would not trouble him. Duanqing, many of the rogue cultivators murmured in secret while their figures emitted a sinister aura. Qin Nan remained expressionless seeing this. Paying the price so everyone could hunt him down? It was not his first time experiencing this. "Oh Zhu Hang, bring it on. I'll teach you a lesson when the time comes. You too, and everyone else, I'm counting on you." Zhu Hang brought his fists together toward Yang Gong, Yu Luosha, and the others in a respectful manner. The disciples nodded their heads slightly after seeing this. Zhu Hang had lowered his attitude significantly. Besides, capturing Duanqing alive would not only bring him great benefits, but also a favor from Zhu Hang. Why not? "Duanqing, you're in for a bad time." Luan Feng opened her eyes and said in a gloating tone. Qin Nan wore a strange expression. This Zhu Hang was quite interesting. "Wait!" Zhao Feng, who had remained silent, suddenly spoke with a pair of icy eyes. "You're asking us to hunt Duanqing down, right?" "Well, that's right." Zhu Hang was startled. The others were confused too. What was this Yu Luosha trying to say? Disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion. Listen to my command. Attack the people of the Trading Alliance with all your might. Leave no one alive. Zhao Feng's face was filled with a terrifying murderous intent all of a sudden. As for Zhu Hang, you better not let me see you. Otherwise, I'll make you experience hell. After hearing this, the disciples of the Wanxiang Pavilion, the Trading Alliance, and the others were dumbfounded. What was going on? Why did Yu Luosha turn against Zhu Hang? The same goes for our Tao-seeking mountain, Gong Yang said with an expressionless face. At that instant, Zhu Hang's crew and the rogue cultivators were dumbfounded. The Wanxiang Pavilion and the Tao-seeking mountain were both on Duanqing's side? Besides, Gong Yang wore a grin as he scanned the crowd and said in a calm tone, "If I find out that any of you are trying to harm Duanqing, don't blame me for being merciless. I won't show any mercy either." At that instant, terrifying murderous intents were emitted from Gong Yang and Zhao Feng's figures as they challenged the crowd. They were only doing this for a single person, Qin Nan. Looking at this scene, Chaotic Wind felt like she was dreaming. What was going on? Chapter 649. A Genius Will Remember Love in a Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 651 Devouring Frenzy, Sacred Saber Intent, Duanqing, I'll never forgive you. As soon as the formation devoured everyone, Zhu Hang collected his thoughts and transmitted his voice to Qin Nan with a dark expression. A love go little say, Chu please go here to read a book. Access. Qin Nan glanced at him without saying anything. In the next moment, everyone's figures were transported to all corners of the primordial battlefield by the power of the formation. The guardian spirit glanced at the empty dojo. Its eyes flickered with a hint of reverence. It said to the light gate in a soft voice, "Granny, everything is going according to your instructions." Whoosh! Qin Nan's figure landed on the ground. The ground around him was crimson and filled with a strong murderous aura. As he raised his head, he could see a white door, indicating that he was not far away from the center of the place. From my current location, there should be a fortunate encounter 3 li away. Qin Nan mumbled to himself, before he sprang into the air and sprang into the sky. At this moment, all the cultivators in the entire primeval battlefield had started to utilize their abilities to search for places where treasures were hidden. If one were to look down from above, one would be able to see that the actions of everyone were like a tide of treasure hunting. A while later, Qin Nan arrived at the place where the treasure was located. Love go little say, Chu he could only see a crimson river flowing forward. The river was extremely viscous, like lava. Advertisement. This river is a mystical creature, whose cultivation is on par with the 5th layer Martial Highness realm. The treasure is hidden under the river. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization after taking a glimpse with his left eye of the divine god of battle. He immediately drew out the ancient saber Ira from its sheath. Whoosh! A powerful saber intent slashed downward with a terrifying might, as if it were going to shatter the river into pieces. Following a loud explosion, the crimson river suddenly awakened. The river began to tremble as if a giant curtain had been opened, devouring the saber intent. In the blink of an eye, the water droplets turned into water droplets the size of a fist and shot toward Qin Nan with incredible might, like the scattering of flowers in the sky. Whoosh! The demon god's robe on Qin Nan's figure flickered and blocked the water droplet. With a kick, his figure dashed to the bottom of the river at lightning speed and retrieved the fragments of the treasure, before vanishing into thin air. Roar! The river became enraged as it realized that it had been tricked by this human. These fragments of the treasures are quite extraordinary. They were most likely half-monarch weapons when they were alive, and still possess such great strength after so many years. Qin Nan observed the fragments as he flew forward. After waiting for a while, he finally realized that something was not right. The Martial Highness crystal did not show any reaction. What's going on? Is it because I can't absorb them? Qin Nan was startled, but he did not stay any longer and proceeded to the next location to try his luck. This time, he found a few stalks of 8-leaved grass, which the Martial Highness crystal absorbed once again, increasing the force of the Martial Highness realm in his body by 2 streams. It seems like it's because I can't absorb the treasures. Last time, I absorbed the mystical wine and mystical herbs. Qin Nan came to a realization. On second thought, it would be too unbelievable if he could absorb anything. For example, the divine battle spirit used to need pills to level up, but now it could only use primary stones. Following this, Qin Nan continued to move forward. In just the period it took 3 incense sticks to burn, he had absorbed at least 18 stalks of mystical herbs, which increased the force of the Martial Highness realm in his body by over 20 streams. Furthermore, he had also found quite a number of fragments of the treasures, which he kept instead of throwing away. The Chaos Chi had another use, which was to restore the strength of the artifacts. Duan Qing. All of a sudden, ripples appeared in the void, and the figure of a mesmerizing person appeared. You really found me? Qin Nan was startled. You've practiced an ancient water-type martial art, so of course I could find you. What's your relationship with Yang Gong and Yu Luosha? Wind asked curiously. What's your relationship with Yang Gong and Yu Luosha? Why are they helping you? We're just acquaintances. Qin Nan wore a calm expression. Hearing this, Luan Feng rolled her eyes. Just acquaintances? If that was the case, why would the 2 geniuses help him at the risk of offending the trading alliance? This guy really has a lot of secrets on him. Luan Feng collected her thoughts and said, I won't ask further. By the way, I don't think the places with the crimson badges would be found. I remember you're a saber user, right? I do know a place that might have the crimson badges. Is that so? Qin Nan's interest was piqued. Although he had the map, he did not know the actual situation. If there was a bigger and more powerful land of fortuitous encounters, that would naturally be the best. The things he could obtain would also be better. Under Luan Feng's guidance, the two finally arrived at their destination after the period it took 4 incense sticks to burn. "This is the place," Luan Feng said as her figure tensed as if she was facing a formidable foe. Qin Nan glanced ahead and immediately saw the ground in front of him being covered in ravines that intertwined with one another as if it had been struck by a great force, allowing him to witness the tragedy of the past. Among these ravines, especially the one in the middle, it was extremely obvious. It went straight ahead and was a full 2 li long. The incision was smooth, and the inside was unfathomably deep. It was completely dark, and when a great wind blew past, it would release waves of murderous whistling sounds. Buzz. The ancient saber Ira in Qin Nan's hand began to vibrate vigorously as if it was being summoned. "This is..." Qin Nan immediately took a glimpse with his left eye of the divine god of battle. Following a glimpse, his expression changed tremendously. Bang! It was as if an explosion had taken place between the heavens and earth, as the chaotic ground in the surroundings vanished, replaced by a white glow. Within the white glow, a blurry figure stood proudly with an ancient saber in his hand. Just this figure, an afterimage, displayed an extremely terrifying aura. Whoosh! It was as if the blurry figure had opened his eyes, which glanced at Qin Nan's figure from a distance. A terrifying murderous intent was emitted from his body as the saber in the figure's hand was swung downward in Qin Nan's direction. The saber glow was like the passage of time. It was as if the slash was not aimed at Qin Nan's flesh, but Qin Nan's future. Crap! Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously. At that instant, he could sense a strong sense of death approaching him. Without hesitation, he raised his left arm of the divine god of battle and placed it in front of him. Bang! A shocking explosion took place. That terrifying saber light of time was actually blocked by him. What's going on? Qin Nan wore a blank expression on his face. Apart from feeling a slight chill in his left arm, his body was perfectly fine. Even if he were to block such a terrifying slash with his left arm of the divine god of battle, his flesh would still suffer a great impact. If the saber glow was an illusion, his left eye of the divine god of battle would be able to see through it. What exactly was going on? Chapter 650. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 652 7-Layer Martial Highness, Tomb of the Sacred. Who would have thought that after so many years, a 6th-layer Martial Highness would be able to resist my saber intent? What a pity, I'm only a stream of my will now, and my flesh is gone. Otherwise, I would have suppressed my cultivation and fought with you for 3 days and 3 nights. The illusionary figure exclaimed, "My name is the 3 Sabers Sacred. Now that my will is about to be destroyed, you happen to be a saber user, thus we are destined to meet. Although I can't teach you my 3 sabers, I can teach you my strongest one. Remember, the name of this saber is aging." Following this, the illusionary figure turned into a beam of white light and entered Qin Nan's forehead. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's more stable than the average website, and the updates are faster too. It's all text with no advertisements. The white space instantly disappeared, causing Qin Nan to return to the ground in the ravine. Before Qin Nan could observe the situation, his figure shuddered violently as a scene appeared in his mind. In the scene, a white-robed man holding a long saber was facing the sky and continuously slashing with his saber, repeating the cycle. Qin Nan was immersed in the scene, as he did not expect it to come to this. After a while, he collected his thoughts and wore a stern expression as he mumbled to himself, Although I don't know why, Senior, since you've given me the saber, I'll surely comprehend its full power." After saying this, Qin Nan sat down with his legs crossed and fully focused on comprehending the secrets of the saber. However, little did he know that a faint saber intent was emitted from his body, causing the area within 10 meters to be filled with saber intent, preventing anyone from approaching him. Disordered Wind, who was standing not far away, wore an astounded look as he saw this. I was right, he was able to acquire the saber intent. In the past, when the disordered ocean of the Crimson Blood tribe was activated many times, many cultivators would discover the saber intent in the ravine. However, no one was able to acquire the saber intent's approval, including Disordered Wind himself. Advertisement. Comprehend it well and hand it over to me safely. Luan Feng retracted her gaze, and her figure slowly disappeared from the spot, as if she had turned into a ghost. After all, there were many cultivators on the ancient battlefield. She had to keep an eye on them. Otherwise, it would be troublesome if she was disturbed while comprehending. At this moment, Qin Nan's mind was completely immersed in it. This slash is not domineering, nor is it sharp. However, compared to the other ancient martial skills, it is more difficult to see through it. Time. Since this slash is called time, then its true profundity should lie within the word time. Qin Nan observed the white-robed man brandishing his saber again and again. Every time he observed, he gained new insight. His understanding of the saber Tao also deepened. This time, he spent an entire day trying to comprehend. The next day, Qin Nan's eyes sprang open all of a sudden as he grabbed the ancient saber in his hand and slashed forward. A saber glow flickered and disappeared. Wherever it passed, the weeds on the ground rapidly withered as their lives were lost. How powerful! Qin Nan's eyes flickered with astonishment. The slash alone was enough to defeat a 6th-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator and resist a 7th-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator. It even had an unbelievable effect at times. This was the power of time, which vaguely possessed the power of time. Even though it was only the first step, it was still incredibly powerful. How terrifying would it be if he was able to comprehend the power of time? Not bad. Luan Feng's figure appeared out of nowhere. Although her heart was in turmoil, her delicate face was still as cold as ice. "Thank you very much." Qin Nan brought his fists together. He clearly knew that it was all thanks to Luan Feng that he was able to acquire the saber intent. By the way, let's take a look at the bottom of the ravine. Qin Nan suddenly recalled something. At the beginning, the ravine was filled with saber intent, thus it was impossible to peek into it. Now that the saber intent was gone, it was time for him to take a look. His instincts were telling him that the bottom of the ravine was filled with treasures. At least, Senior 3 Saber Sacred would not simply leave his saber intent at a random place. Luan Feng nodded her head. It went without saying that she knew something about it, but she did not take a look at it as she was here to assist Qin Nan. She would leave all the benefits to Qin Nan. Whoosh! With a flicker, the two landed at the bottom of the ravine. Qin Nan immediately unleashed his left eye of the divine god of battle and scanned the place. Following a glimpse, his face was filled with astonishment. At the bottom of the ravine were a total of 100 crimson badges emitting crimson glows. Apart from that, there were also a few hundred herbs that were affected by the poisonous blood and intent, and fragments of treasures scattered around the place. There were at least a few hundred of them. As I thought, there are so many treasures under Senior 3 Saber Sacred's saber intent. Qin Nan was overjoyed, who immediately said to Luan Feng with a stern look, "We'll split the loot in half." Luan Feng was startled, before she shook her head and said with an expressionless face, "I'm here on the order of the Luan clan to help you. I don't need anything from you." As she spoke, she glanced at the blood jade token out of the corner of her eye. The heavenly fortune talisman was extremely precious. Even though countless geniuses were competing for it, who would not be willing to give it a try? If they were able to acquire it, they would have a chance to enter the heavenly fortune path and alter their destiny. If you don't want it, I'll destroy the other half. Qin Nan waved his hand, causing the phoenix soul-consuming fire to float in the air. He had learned the move from the third prince. As he thought, Luan Feng's eyelids jumped when she realized that Qin Nan was going to attack. She said helplessly, "All right, I'll take 50 crimson badges. I won't be taking the rest." "That works too." Qin Nan pondered for a moment, before he tossed the 50 crimson badges into Luan Feng's hands. He then kept the rest of the crimson badges, herbs, and fragments of treasures into his storage bag. The martial highness crystal in his body began to buzz as it collected the herbs. These herbs might be able to help me rank up to the 7th layer martial highness realm. Qin Nan was overjoyed, before he immediately said to Luan Feng, "Wait here for me." Saying this, he leapt into the air and landed 1 li away, before sitting down with his legs crossed. Rumble! A series of explosions took place in his body as the stalks of herbs were refined by the martial highness crystal and turned into the force of the martial highness realm. When the last herb was completely refined, a 7th layer martial highness realm aura was emitted from Qin Nan's body. As I thought, I've ranked up. Qin Nan exhaled deeply. Since he had achieved the 7th layer martial highness realm, it meant that his strength had reached the upper tier among the cultivators on the ancient battlefield. Whoosh! With a kick, he returned to the ravine. Luan Feng subconsciously glanced at him, and her expression changed tremendously as she blurted out, "You've ranked up to the 7th layer martial highness realm?" As a martial highness, she clearly knew how difficult it was to cultivate the force of the martial highness realm. He was only a 5th layer martial highness when he came to the disordered ocean city. How had he managed to rank up to the 7th layer martial highness realm in just a few days' time? How terrifying was that? Was it because of the herbs? I was lucky to have ranked up. Qin Nan let out a smile and switched the topic. You were right. These crimson badges have all landed in places with powerful treasures. Time is running out and you still know where they are? Let's head there at once. Oh, you're right. Luan Feng withheld the astonishment in her heart and said, "There is a place where a martial sacred realm expert constructed a grave for himself before his death after a great battle. A tomb of a martial sacred." Chapter 651. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 653. Coming here after hearing the news, meeting the enemy. The martial sacred's tomb has never been opened before, as it requires a sufficient amount of disordered ocean chi to be opened. Luan Feng continued, over the years, the others have only managed to acquire 100 streams of disordered ocean chi, which is not enough. Advertisement. Access. However, for you. She did not finish her sentence. Qin Nan came to a realization, causing his lips to curl upward. It seemed like it had been a wise decision to devour the disordered ocean chi. Let's go then. Qin Nan and Luan Feng did not stay any longer. They proceeded forward at a rapid pace. Along the way, they found quite a number of fortunate encounters. Regardless of how many there were, Qin Nan did not miss any of them. He collected them one by one, allowing the force of the martial highness realm in his body to improve once again. Furthermore, they had also found 80 crimson badges. We're here. Luan Feng halted in her tracks and tensed her figure, as if she was facing a formidable foe. Qin Nan raised his head and glanced ahead. The crimson ground before them was covered with strange ancient trees scattered across the place. Behind the trees were tombs of various sizes that were stacked together, covering an area with a circumference of a few li. The top of the tombs was encapsulated by a crimson glow. This crimson glow is a terrifying, forbidding aura. Even a peak Martial Highness realm cultivator would be instantly destroyed upon touching it. Qin Nan's heart shuddered as he raised his hand and unleashed the disordered ocean qi from his body. After the chaotic ocean qi entered the blood-red light barrier, the thick blood-red color gradually dimmed. After 800 streams of chaotic ocean qi were sent out, the blood-red light barrier turned transparent and cracked open with a cracking sound. Countless wisps of death qi instantly surged out from the grave. Crap! Qin Nan's expression turned pale as he swiftly backed away with the disordered wind. His left eye of the divine god of battle was able to detect a force being awakened at the center of the tombs. 3 breaths later, a strong presence of death soared into the sky from the center of the tombs with a deafening rumble. It sounded like the roar of the god of death. It was quite intimidating, enough to shake the area within a few hundred li. This is bad. Luan Feng's expression darkened as she said, "Such a huge commotion will surely attract the attention of the cultivators nearby." As soon as she finished her sentence, whoosh! A figure suddenly appeared and landed 100 meters away from them. The person was a rogue cultivator with a cultivation of the 5th layer Martial Highness realm. He was not far away from the Martial Sacred's tomb. As soon as he was aware of the rare phenomenon, he immediately teleported there with a mystical artifact. You're Duan Qing? The rogue cultivator's eyes widened when he saw Qin Nan. There was no way he would stand a chance against Duan Qing with his cultivation. Whoosh 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 whoosh. A series of whooshing noises could be heard. A total of 13 rogue cultivators immediately made their way to the scene after being aware of the anomaly. Their expressions changed slightly when they discovered Duan Qing's presence. There are 14 people here, 3 of whom have reached the 8th layer Martial Highness realm, 7 of whom have reached the 7th layer Martial Highness realm, and the rest are all above the 5th layer Martial Highness realm. Love Go Xiao Sei. Most importantly, it's not over yet. In the nick of time, Qin Nan scanned the crowd with his left eye of the divine god of battle, observing their cultivations. The chaotic wind's expression was as gloomy as water. She did not expect the situation to come to this. If they were to attract the attention of the cultivators, it would not be easy to claim the Martial Sacred's tomb. Ha ha, this is most likely the tomb of a Martial Sacred. At that instant, a burst of laughter could be heard all of a sudden. A series of ripples appeared in the air as 3 figures descended from the sky. Their eyes were fixed onto the tomb with excitement. They were none other than Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng. The 3 stars. It's the 3 stars. Is this the tomb of a Martial Sacred? This is getting interesting. The 3 stars in Duan Qing are like fire and water. The rogue cultivators remained in place without moving or unleashing their auras. They simply watched the scene with great interest. Du Ping and the others swiftly reacted and scanned the surroundings with their divine sense. They immediately discovered Qin Nan and Luan Feng's presence. Duan Qing? The 3 of them were stunned. Qin Nan could not help but wear a grin when he saw the trio. It seems like we're destined to meet each other. Who the F*** K is destined to meet you. Let's attack together. Du Ping uttered a roar. The 3 brothers were well coordinated, thus they immediately made their moves. Rays of mystical glows were emitted as they fired powerful attacks in Qin Nan's direction. Regardless of the relationship between Duan Qing, Yang Gong, and Yu Luosha, the trading alliance had to capture Qin Nan at all costs. Great timing! Qin Nan's eyes flickered with a hint of battle intent. Now that he had ranked up to the 7th layer Martial Highness realm, the difference between his cultivation and the others was not too huge. The battle was about to take place. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. Whoosh! A rapid piercing sound could be heard as one of the rogue cultivators dashed toward the tomb with all his might. It turned out that he had already prepared himself when he saw the 2 sides confronting one another. Once the battle began and the crowd's attention was attracted, he would make his move and enter the martial sacred's tomb. It was the tomb of a martial sacred. Even the succession of a martial sacred was more than enough for a martial highness like him. Not to mention, there might be lots of crimson badges inside the tomb. Damn it! The expressions of the group of rogue cultivators changed slightly, and they hurriedly took action. Even the eyes of the 3 stars widened. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. The 6 ancient sabers in his storage bag shuddered and emitted saber glows as he executed the flying saber art to attack his enemies. A rare occurrence took place all of a sudden. Rumble! Rumble! A series of shocking blasts took place, as the tomb slowly opened up a 3 zhang wide and 1 zhang tall tunnel, as if it was aware of someone's presence. The tunnel was pitch black, leading to the deepest part of the tomb. Qin Nan frowned slightly. Almost everyone's movements came to a halt. The tunnel being opened all of a sudden was too strange. The rogue cultivator leading the way could feel his hair standing on end seeing this. However, since the martial sacred's tomb was right in front of him, he had no choice but to risk his life. He uttered a roar and unleashed 3 emperor weapons and over 10 talismans to protect himself as he charged forward. As soon as the rogue cultivator stepped into the tunnel, a shocking crimson glow was emitted like a raging river. The glow encapsulating the rogue cultivator's figure was instantly shattered and devoured, causing his voice to come to a stop. Within a breath's time, the crimson glow was withdrawn, returning the darkness to the tunnel. The place fell into a dead silence. Chapter 652. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 654. The Might of the Disordered Ocean. Earning primary stones, the rogue cultivator was a 6th-layer Martial Highness Realm cultivator. He had been eliminated in the blink of an eye. They would do the same thing if they were in his shoes. Could it be that this martial sacred's tomb was inaccessible? As the crowd was confused, a black glow was emitted from the entrance of the passage, together with the suppression of the martial sacred realm. Advertisement -79XS. The crowd was startled. A martial sacred realm expert? Was he still alive? It's only a stream of his will. Qin Nan's tensed figure relaxed after taking a glimpse with his left eye. A stream of his will would not be able to inflict any harm on him. I'm the Emperor Force Martial Sacred. Before my death, I built this tomb to pass down my succession to my descendant. However, I didn't expect the crimson blood ocean to be so powerful, causing my will to be greatly eroded over the past few hundred years. The black glow spoke with a hoarse voice. Therefore, I modified the forbidding aura, requiring the disordered ocean chi to enter the tomb. Juniors, if you want to enter the tomb, please hand over 100 streams of the disordered ocean chi. With the disordered ocean chi, I'll be free. The black glow vanished after saying this, as if he had never been there. The crowd was stunned. Requiring the disordered ocean chi? This Emperor of Strength Martial Sacred should be right. The saber intent we encountered just then possessed an extraordinary cultivation, thus it was reasonable for it to not be affected by the disordered ocean chi. This Emperor of Strength Martial Sacred's cultivation was not strong enough, thus his will was too weak, thus he would be affected. The disordered wind transmitted its voice to Qin Nan. Hearing this, Qin Nan's expression became strange. How impressive of the disordered ocean chi! Who would have thought it would be so useful in the ancient battlefield? Meanwhile, more rogue cultivators were arriving at the tomb. A while later, there were over 30 of them, 3 of whom had reached the 9th-layer Martial Highness realm. However, when they heard what the Power King Martial Saints said, their faces instantly darkened. Where would they get 100 strands of chaotic ocean chi? The disordered ocean chi. Duan Qing, hand over the disordered ocean chi. Du Ping and the others came to their senses and glared at Qin Nan murderously. They clearly remembered that most of the chaotic oceanic qi had been swept away by this guy. Yeah. Duan Qing has the chaotic sea energy. I remember now. He absorbed several thousand wisps of it in the chaotic sea city. What? So many? The rogue cultivators collected their thoughts and glanced at Qin Nan with a hint of hostility. Initially, due to the threats from the two geniuses, Yang Gong and Yu Luosha, they had no intention to harm Qin Nan. However, the tomb of the martial sacred was right in front of them. Once they obtained the disordered oceanic qi, they would be able to enter the tomb and obtain the treasure and succession. Is that so? Qin Nan let out a calm smile as his figure dashed toward the tomb under the crowd's gaze. Upon seeing this sight, the faces of many unaffiliated cultivators warped in astonishment. Duan Qing, are you trying to claim the entire succession for yourself? Duan Qing, if you insist, don't blame us for showing no mercy. That's right. In the blink of an eye, several piercing sounds could be heard as the cultivators landed beside Qin Nan and surrounded him. Their figures were filled with murderous intent, as if they would attack if Qin Nan did not hand over the disordered ocean qi. Du Ping and the others uttered hollow laughs upon seeing this. If he did not hand it over today, he would surely infuriate the crowd, leaving him with no chance of escaping. Trying to surround me with just you guys? A faint smile appeared on Qin Nan's face. His figure moved all of a sudden. The eyes of the rogue cultivators sharpened as several ancient martial skills were executed. In the blink of an eye, a great number of attacks were executed. However, Qin Nan's figure swiftly swam away like a dragonfish in the water. It was as if he was able to predict the attacks in advance, allowing him to dodge them without being harmed. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Qin Nan's figure weaved back and forth like a storm. A moment later, the crowd's eyes widened as they saw Qin Nan's figure leaping into the air and landing at the entrance of the passage. He would be able to enter the passage with a single step. All the cultivators' faces revealed a look of shock. What kind of movement technique did Duan Qing use just now? How was he able to dodge the attacks of over 30 cultivators unscathed? What? His cultivation has ranked up to the 7th layer Martial Highness realm. Du Ping, Du Yuan, and Du Feng were dumbfounded seeing this. It had only been a few days. Did he just rank up twice in a row? How was this possible? Guys, I, Duan Qing, am not the kind of person to monopolize the loot. Instead of enjoying it alone, I would rather enjoy it together with everyone. Qin Nan burst out laughing instead of moving his feet. This tomb of the martial sacred should be explored by all of us. However, as you all know, the disordered ocean qi is hard to come by, thus I won't give it to you for free. Therefore, I'll need your primary stones. There was no other way. Regardless of how many treasures and herbs he had, Qin Nan did not have a single primary stone on him. Without primary stones, he would not be able to improve the divine battle spirit. Therefore, Qin Nan immediately thought of selling the disordered ocean qi. The crowd was stunned, as they did not expect him to do such a thing. I don't need too many primary stones, 100 streams of disordered ocean qi for 10,000 primary stones. It's a fair trade. Qin Nan smilingly said. As soon as he said that, the expressions of the rogue cultivators eased a lot. 10,000 primary stones for 100 streams of disordered ocean qi. Although the price was a little expensive, it was extremely rare to find a martial sacred's tomb. It would be a great profit if they were able to acquire some ancient martial arts from it. Only Disordered Wind was left speechless. Why would this guy trade for primary stones instead of looting the treasure himself? What if you're lying to us? One of the rogue cultivators blurted out. It's up to you whether you want to believe it or not. Qin Nan calmly said. The eyes of the rogue cultivators flickered. 10,000 primary stones was not a huge amount, but it was not a small amount either. It would not be a problem if they were to give it to him. After all, he would not make an enemy out of them just to cheat them of such a small amount of primary stones. All right, I'll give you the money. 10,000 it is, take it. Brother Duan-Qing, honesty is everything. The rogue cultivators took out 10,000 primary stones and threw them to the crowd. Soon, there were 30 of them. Qin Nan only had 300,000 primary stones in his possession. Finally, I have primary stones. Qin Nan let out a sigh, before he glanced at Du Ping, Du Yuan and Du Feng and said, "What is it? Don't the 3 stars want to enter the martial sacred's tomb?" As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. Even Du Ping and the others were stunned. What was he trying to say? You're selling us the disordered ocean chi? Du Ping's face was filled with disbelief. Was this Duan-Qing out of his mind? Chapter 653. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 655. Drawing their swords, battling the 3 stars. As everyone knew, Duan-Qing and the Trading Alliance were at odds with one another, like fire and water. Why would Duan-Qing sell the disordered ocean chi to the 3 stars under such circumstances? It didn't make any sense. There must be some kind of trick. Duan-Qing, I have no idea what you're up to. We'll wait outside the tomb and see where you're going to run to. Du Ping and the others crossed their arms in front of their chest, as if they had already seen through Duan-Qing's plan. Qin Nan wore a helpless expression. He was not trying to trick them at all. However, selling the disordered ocean chi to the 3 stars would not affect him at all. Once they entered the martial sacred's tomb, he would immediately kill them all. Go and compete with them inside the tomb. I'll be right behind you. Qin Nan transmitted his voice to Luan Feng. You! Luan Feng stared with her eyes open wide. What was he planning to do by staying outside alone? Could it be? Duan-Qing, don't be reckless. Du Ping is an 8th layer martial highness, Du Yuan is a 7th layer martial highness, and Du Feng is a 6th layer martial highness. When the 3 of them join forces, their combined strength is extremely terrifying, yelled Luan Feng. Let's go. Qin Nan groaned as his gaze sharpened. Luan Feng was left speechless. She was about to say something, but could not find any words to refute after seeing Qin Nan's expression. You're asking for it. Luan Feng snapped coldly before her figure entered the tunnel with a flicker. Qin Nan had already given her 100 streams of the disordered ocean chi at the start. Let's go too. The rogue cultivators who had acquired the disordered ocean chi exchanged glances with one another before entering the tunnel. Only a few weaker rogue cultivators exchanged glances with one another, before shaking their heads helplessly and leaving the place. With their cultivation and talents, it would be a waste for them to enter the tunnel. Du Ping and the others wore unpleasant looks on their faces. The 3 of them were quite interested in the martial sacred's tomb. However, it was a pity that the disordered ocean chi had been taken away by that asshole. Wait a minute. The 3 immediately realized that something was not right, as Duan-Qing had yet to enter the passage. What was he trying to do? Shua. At that instant, Qin Nan's figure arrived before the trio with an expressionless face. His long black robe danced in the wind as the ancient saber in his hand vibrated vigorously, before 3 streams of saber glows were fired downward. At that instant, Du Ping and the others immediately came to a realization. This Duan-Qing had stayed outside because he wanted to fight them. Duan-Qing, how dare you? Do you think you're a match for us just because you've reached the 7th layer venerable realm? Du Ping and the others were infuriated. They did not expect Duan-Qing to take the initiative to attack before they had even made their move. It was as if he had no respect for the 3 stars. Rumble! At that instant, several Emperor weapons rose into the air, emitting brilliant glows. There were over 100 kinds of wind, fire, thunder, lightning, ice, rain, etc., which filled the place with a shocking aura, which instantly devoured the 3 saber glows and crushed toward Qin Nan. Wuji Heavenly Treasure Formation. The trio had an outstanding teamwork as they uttered a roar and activated the formation. The Emperor weapons danced wildly in the air, as if they had come alive, forming a terrifying formation that gave Qin Nan no chance to escape, allowing him to unleash countless attacks. Qin Nan's left eye flickered with a thunderous glow. His figure shuttled back and forth in the midst of the attacks like a raging storm, dodging all of the attacks. In the blink of an eye, while dodging the attacks, he executed a slash onto one of the Emperor weapons, shattering it into pieces. Bang! The formation constructed by the Emperor weapons was instantly destroyed. It turned out that the Emperor weapon was the eye of the formation. Crap, he saw through it. Du Ping and the others were dumbfounded. This Duan Qing's eye technique was so terrifying. Before they could react, a figure arrived before them. Terrifying flames burst out from the figure without any sign, encapsulating the trio within. Tide. As soon as Qin Nan executed the phoenix soul-consuming fire, he uttered a roar. Behind him, 3 ancient sabers rose into the air. With a flicker, it was as if 3 illusionary figures were summoned, each holding an ancient saber and swinging it forward with an expressionless face. Whoosh! 3 terrifying saber glows flickered, causing time to cease as they passed. Crap! Du Ping and the others were dumbfounded as a great sense of danger rose within their hearts. This Duan Qing was a lot stronger than they had imagined. Imperious God Spear. Scarlet Flame Plume. Emperor Throne. In the moment of life and death, the 3 of them let out a furious roar at the same time. 3 brilliant sacred rays burst out from their bodies and soared into the sky. A terrifying spear over 100 zhang long, a giant bow over 5 zhang long engulfed in flames, and a golden throne with several golden dragons coiling around it appeared simultaneously, unleashing a shocking sacred aura. These 3 artifacts were 3 sacred weapons. Whoosh! The 3 sacred weapons were activated at the same time, firing terrifying spear glows, arrow glows, and emperor glows to shatter the flames and the saber of time. So these are the disciples of the Trading Alliance? Qin Nan's eyes glistened. The disciples of the Trading Alliance were able to use their artifacts in battle. Even though they were unable to fully unleash the power of the 3 sacred weapons, it was still extremely terrifying. Second brother, third brother, unleash your full power to suppress him. Du Ping uttered a roar. Qin Nan's strength was extraordinary. His cultivation of the 7th layer martial highness realm was enough to resist the 3 of them. If they were to drag this out any longer, there was no telling what would happen when the other cultivators arrived. They had to make use of this opportunity to capture Qin Nan. Heavenly Mortal Sword. Icy Fire Door. Du Ping and Du Feng uttered a roar as 2 sacred glows were emitted from their bodies. A giant sword and a giant gate appeared in the sky, emitting an imperious aura in all directions. The first and second stars each had 2 sacred weapons in their bodies. Emperor Throne, 5 sacred suppression. At that instant, Du Feng performed a series of hand seals, causing the 5 sacred weapons above him to respond to his command. Following a blast, the weapon spirits uttered roars and summoned a 5-pointed star that crushed downward onto Qin Nan's head. The area within 10 li was instantly filled with a boundless aura, shattering the rocks in the air into pieces. This was the secret of the 3 stars. The 3 of them shared the same father and mother, thus they were able to coordinate with one another to unleash the full power of the artifacts. Qin Nan raised his head seeing this. In the nick of time, he took a step forward and raised his left arm to defend himself. Haha, Could it be that you're thinking of using your physical body to block our attack? Du Ping and the others uttered hollow laughs upon seeing this. Even a genius ranked in the top 15 of the Hidden Dragon ranking would be knocked back by the combined power of 5 sacred weapons, not to mention Duan Qing's cultivation was only at the 7th layer Martial Highness realm. Bang! A loud explosion took place. A shocking sight took place. With Qin Nan at the center, the ground within 100 zhang of him was shattered into pieces, resulting in strong gusts of wind. However, his figure stood still like a mountain facing the 5 terrifying sacred weapons. It was as if he was not injured at all. How is this possible? The eyes of the trio widened as their hearts were filled with great astonishment. Did Duan Qing really manage to block such a powerful attack with his flesh alone? Chapter 654. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 656, Defeating the 3 Stars, Obtaining a Great Reward, Heart-Cleansing Demonic Purging. Qin Nan raised his right hand and flicked his finger in the direction of Du Ping and the others. That was fast. 3 illusionary copper bells appeared and encapsulated the trio. With a loud chime, the phoenix soul-consuming fire and the sky thunder were produced. This was the result of Qin Nan applying the secrets of the heavenly accumulating strike to his moves, resulting in a series of killing blows. Puff! Du Ping and the others collected their thoughts and immediately activated their artifacts to defend themselves. However, their artifacts were shattered one after another, causing their flesh to suffer the remaining impact, causing them to spit out mouthfuls of blood and be knocked over 10 steps backward. Before they could react, another 3 ancient sabers were fired at them. One attack after another. While they were still immersed in their astonishment, Qin Nan continued to attack them like a raging tsunami. Damn it! The expressions of Du Ping and the other 2 changed drastically. They hurriedly activated their defensive artifacts and formed a huge wall of artifact. As the saber chi descended, the artifact spirits and formations within the artifacts rapidly aged and decayed. They could not withstand a single blow and were all shattered. In just 2 attacks, only a few emperor weapons were left in their bodies. Kill him! Du Ping and the other 2's expressions turned ferocious at the same time. According to the instructions of the leader of the Trading Alliance, they were supposed to suppress Duan Qing and force him to reveal all his secret. However, the strength that Duan Qing had displayed was too terrifying, to the point that they could feel a great sense of danger. Currently, Duan Qing's cultivation was only at the 7th layer Martial Highness realm. If his cultivation was at the 8th layer Martial Highness realm, did that mean that even Zhu Hang would not be able to suppress him? 3. Spirit. Void. Speech. Kill. At that instant, Du Ping and the others made up their minds and performed hand seals. A mystical force was emitted from their bodies and entered the 5 sacred weapons, causing them to vibrate vigorously as a tremendous force was emitted from them. A love go little say, W Chum? Even though Qin Nan had the left arm of the divine god of battle to protect himself, his flesh was still under great pressure. The demon god's robe began to flutter and stick to his body to resist the force. Please go here to read a book, die. Du Ping and the others uttered roars. A terrifying force burst out from the 5 sacred weapons at the same time and merged into one, resulting in an indescribable force that was capable of destroying everything in the world. When the 3 of them saw this, their hearts relaxed. They were extremely confident in this move. Even those ranked in the top 15 of the Hidden Dragon ranking would be knocked back by this move. Regardless of how strong Duan Qing's flesh was, there was no way he could resist it. Boom! A loud bang was heard. With Qin Nan at the center, the ground within 1 li in all directions was shattered into pieces as if it had been struck by a giant hammer. Even the space nearby began to ripple, revealing tiny cracks that swept away the dust. From this, it could be seen how terrifying this attack was. However, as soon as the dust dissipated, the hearts of the trio shuddered violently. They could only see Qin Nan's figure standing perfectly still under the attack of the 5 sacred weapons. The demon god's robe emitted a brilliant glow, while his left arm was perfectly unharmed. However, this time, a line of blood could be seen on his lips. The left arm of the divine god of battle had blocked half of the attack, while the demon god's robe had blocked a small part of it. The remaining force had damaged Qin Nan's flesh. This. Du Ping and the others stared with their mouths open wide. Their eyes were filled with terror for the first time. He was only a 7th layer martial highness. How could Duan Qing only suffer a light injury from such a terrifying attack? That wasn't possible. Unleash your martial spirits. Du Ping uttered a roar as 8 golden rays were emitted from his back. Du Yuan and Du Feng immediately collected their thoughts and executed their martial spirit. 3 8th grade D-ranked martial spirits were unleashed. Martial spirits roar, 3 spirits merge into 1 die. The trio executed a forbidden technique, causing the 3 martial spirits to merge with one another and merge their forces together, before attacking Qin Nan, who was standing under the 5 sacred weapons. Apart from the artifacts, the combination of the 3 martial spirits was their other trump card. Their eyes became bloodshot. It was their last chance. Kneel down. Following Qin Nan's roar, 8 golden rays were emitted from his back. The divine battle spirit stood in midair and glanced at the martial spirit that had merged into one with the 3 souls. Bang! A terrifying suppression swept the place, as if it were an iron rule. One of the abilities of the divine battle spirit. All martial spirits of the same level had to be suppressed without resistance. Du Ping and the others immediately witnessed a shocking scene. Their martial spirit, which had merged into one, began to tremble violently, as if it had encountered some kind of terrifying presence. Their figures slowly prostrated themselves on the ground, as if they were servants worshipping the emperor. The failure of the sacred weapons attack. The failure of the martial spirits attack. The series of astonishment completely drowned the trio's minds, causing their eyes to be filled with utter terror. What kind of monster was this Duan Qing? His flesh was terrifying, and his martial spirits were able to suppress his martial spirits. Even though they were experienced and knowledgeable, they had never heard of or seen such a method before. Whoosh! At that instant, Qin Nan raised his head from the bottom of the pit. His eyes were locked onto the sacred weapon at the center as a strong battle intent burst out from his body. Time, flame, lightning, demon sweeping, disordered ocean, divine battle. / His right hand drew out the ancient saber as he accumulated all the force in his body. Whoosh! A terrifying saber glow slashed downward in a destructive manner, slashing the giant sacred weapon in half with brute force. The cut was perfectly straight without any resistance. In the blink of an eye, the sacred weapon was split in half and exploded into blazing flames, causing the surroundings to tremble. A single slash had slashed the sacred weapon in half. The formation formed by the 5 sacred weapons was instantly shattered, causing the tremendous force to disappear. Whoosh! Qin Nan's figure leapt into the air and floated in midair. His eyes were locked onto the 3 stars figure as he slashed forward with the ancient saber in his hand once again. No! The great sense of danger caused the 3 stars to recover from their shock. Their faces turned extremely pale as they immediately controlled the remaining sacred weapon to defend themselves. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At that instant, the 3 stars suddenly saw tiny dots of light expanding in their vision, which turned out to be pitch-black orbs. There were a total of 20 of them, each emitting a strong thunderous force. Are those the thunderous orbs? Could it be? The 3 stars' faces were filled with astonishment as they discovered something. Before they could say anything, the the saber glow landed on the sacred weapons, causing them to pause for a breath's time. In the blink of an eye, the 20 thunderous orbs had landed on their head. The thunderous orbs shattered into pieces, causing a terrifying thunderous explosion to spread out from their bodies. Bang! Following a loud explosion, countless thunderbolts were emitted, as if it had transformed into an ocean of lightning. 3 cries of agony could be heard simultaneously. Their figures were severely injured after being struck by the 20 thunderous orbs, causing them to be on the verge of death. Qin Nan's eyes turned cold. Without any hesitation, he executed another 3 slashes of time. This time, without the protection of the sacred weapons, the 3 slashes of saber glow completely devoured the 3 stars. The 3 stars were dead. The 4 sacred weapons let out cries of agony as if they had just received a great blow. Their glow dimmed as they fell to the ground, no longer emitting any sacred aura. Phew! Qin Nan could not help but let out a sigh of relief after seeing this. The battle had not been easy. Even though his cultivation had reached the 7th layer Martial Highness realm, the combined strength of the 3 stars was too overwhelming. If it weren't for the thunderous orbs, it would have taken him a lot of effort to kill them. However, even though he had won the battle, he had depleted half of the force of the Martial Highness realm in his body, causing him to suffer a slight injury. Qin Nan immediately took out a few pills to recover his strength and consumed them, causing his pale face to redden slightly. Such a pity, the thunderous orbs were too powerful, causing their storage bags to be destroyed. Otherwise, I would have been able to earn a fortune. Qin Nan wore a pitiful look. He did not feel guilty for killing the 3 stars. However, in his initial plan, he still wanted to earn some primary stones from them. Now, there were only 4 damaged sacred weapons left. Forget it, these 4 are not bad enough. Qin Nan shook his head and stored the 4 sacred weapons into his storage bag, before he prepared to enter the martial sacred's tomb. What's that? Qin Nan suddenly saw 3 faint golden glows on the corpses of the 3 stars. Chapter 655. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 657. Breaking the Formation with Godly Eyes. A huge sum of primary stones. Qin Nan grabbed the 3 storage bags and inspected them with his left eye, before he immediately came to a realization. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's more stable than ordinary websites, and the updates are faster too. It's all written with no advertisement. For more information, visit www. It appeared that the storage bags of the Trading Alliance were different from the others, as they were reinforced with various forbidding auras, preventing them from being broken even after receiving a strong impact. I'm in luck this time. Qin Nan wore a grin on his face as he swiftly cracked the forbidding aura and opened the storage bag. He was stunned after taking a glimpse inside. Inside Du Feng's storage bag were 500,000 primary stones, over 10 emperor weapons, a few fragments of sacred weapons, and some ancient map. Inside Du Feng's storage bag were 800,000 primary stones, over 10 emperor weapons, and fragments of sacred weapons. As for Du Feng's storage bag, there were 1,700,000 primary stones, over 100 emperor weapons, and 1 sacred weapon. Apart from that, each of the 3 of them had 50 blood jade tokens in their possession. F***K me. Even Qin Nan could not help but curse. Just the primal stones alone amounted to 3 million. These emperor weapons, sacred weapon fragments, maps, pills, etc., and 1 sacred weapon were worth at least 1 million primary stones. In other words, the items inside their storage bags were worth a total of 4 million primary stones. Even the Black Tortoise platoon did not have that many primary stones. The Trading Alliance was F***King rich. If these 3 guys are so wealthy, Doesn't that mean Zhu Hang has? Qin Nan's breathing intensified. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's more stable than ordinary websites, and the updates are faster too. It's all written with no advertisements. Even though he and Zhu Hang were enemies, he had never felt the urge to immediately suppress Zhu Hang and rob him of everything he had. I'm still no match against Zhu Hang now, but I won't let him go so easily. After entering the martial saint's tomb, I'll be able to consume primary stones and rank up to the 9th grade Earth martial spirit. These 3 million primeval stones, in addition to the 300,000 primeval stones just now, should be enough to break through. Qin Nan took a few deep breaths and stored the 3 storage bags, before glancing toward the entrance of the cave. The battle between him and the 3 stars had not taken too much time. He should still be able to make it if he entered the tomb now. Go! Qin Nan took a step forward, and his body flashed like a ray of light. After paying 100 strands of chaotic sea qi, he entered the pitch-black tunnel unimpeded. In the passageway there were many stone chambers. Inside the stone chambers, there were corpses of dead creatures. Green blood flowed out of the corpses as they lay on the ground. It was obvious that a great battle had just taken place. In these stone rooms there must have been magical treasures and so on, but they had all been taken away. Void peeking. Qin Nan scanned the stone chambers with his left eye, searching for the figures of the crowd. A few breaths later, he found the figures of the rogue cultivators and the disordered wind. With a kick, he soon arrived at the center of the tomb like a ferocious tiger. In the middle of the hall was a spacious hall. In the middle of the hall there was a small altar. A skeleton sat cross-legged on the altar. The skeleton was emitting a purple light. Even though it had decayed over time, its power was still strong. Below the corpse were several jade jars, fragments of treasures, and 3 wooden boxes. Apart from that, the most eye-catching thing was the 500 crimson badges beside the corpse, which emitted a strange crimson glow. The corpse of a martial sacred, a few thousand fragments of treasures, over 300 jade jars, each containing some kind of pill, and 3 wooden boxes containing powerful ancient martial arts, not to mention the 500 crimson badges. Upon seeing this, Qin Nan's heart began to beat rapidly. The corpse of a martial sacred, if refined, would bring great benefits to one's cultivation. Not to mention the fragments of treasures, the jade jars, the pills, the ancient martial arts, and the crimson badges. How was this a succession? It was more like a treasure vault. Bang! 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 A series of explosions took place, causing the entire hall to tremble slightly. It turned out that the surroundings of the martial sacred's corpse were filled with forbidding auras of various sizes. Each of the forbidding auras possessed outstanding power. Despite the efforts of the 30 rogue cultivators, they were still unable to get close to the center of the place. The same went for disordered wind. Her forehead was covered in a thin layer of sweat, while a few wounds could be seen on her shoulders. It was obvious that the battle had worn her out significantly. If it weren't for her quick reflexes, she would have been severely injured. Disordered wind. Follow me. Qin Nan transmitted his voice. Disordered Wind's figure shuddered violently as she turned her head around. Her eyes were filled with astonishment. She knew that Duan Qing had purposely stayed outside to fight against the 3 stars. Did that mean that Duan Qing had decided to come in on his own accord? Do you have a plan? Disordered Wind calmed her thoughts as her eyes were filled with doubts. She knew that Duan Qing had an eye technique, but there was no lack of rogue cultivators who were skilled in eye techniques as well. However, in front of these powerful restrictions, they were not enough. Whoosh! Qin Nan did not waste any time. He immediately unleashed his full force of the Martial Highness realm as his figure dashed forward like a phoenix. He grabbed Disordered Wind and dashed toward the Martial Sacred's corpse. Duan Qing? What is he trying to do? So he didn't come in just so we could deal with those dead things. How cunning! The rogue cultivators were startled seeing this, before they swiftly collected their thoughts. Following this, their expressions changed tremendously. The reason being that Duan Qing's figure was heading straight for the forbidding auras. They were well aware of the power of the forbidding auras. What was Duan Qing trying to do? Was he trying to get himself killed? Even Disordered Wind, who was being grabbed by Qin Nan, was startled when she saw the forbidding aura approaching her. She immediately unleashed the force of the Martial Highness realm in her body. Break! Qin Nan yelled fiercely. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he suddenly pointed his finger at the light spot on the front left of the restriction. This powerful restriction actually collapsed in an instant and no longer had any power. This. Disordered Wind's eyes were filled with astonishment. What kind of outstanding eye technique did Duan Qing possess to be able to break the forbidding aura in such a manner? The rogue cultivators collected their thoughts too, as their faces were filled with astonishment. They did not expect Duan Qing to have such a trick up his sleeve. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Qin Nan was like a ferocious tiger descending from the mountain with a formidable aura. The forbidding auras he passed by were completely shattered, allowing him to move forward without any hindrance. Within a breath's time, he had broken through over 10 powerful forbidding auras and arrived 3 zhang away from the martial sacred's corpse. Crap! The rogue cultivators were dumbfounded. Were they going to let Duan Qing claim all the treasures on his own? At that instant a rare occurrence took place. Chapter 656. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Here's a great novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 658. Acquiring the Treasure, Shocking the Crowd. Young man, your eye technique isn't bad, but the treasure isn't that easy to acquire. The martial sacred corpse suddenly spoke with a hoarse voice, which turned out to be the martial sacred. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. Please leave a good review. Visit www for more information. Whoosh. It was as if the entire hall was engulfed by a tornado, which swept the remaining forbidding auras toward Qin Nan's figure. In the blink of an eye, a wall of forbidding auras was formed, leaving Qin Nan with no way to escape. Break. The flicker in Qin Nan's left eye grew stronger. Regardless of how many forbidding auras and formations there were, they were all exposed. Whoosh. His figure sprang forward once again and flicked his finger, causing the forbidding auras to shatter. In just less than 10 breaths' time, all of the forbidding auras were gone. Following this, Qin Nan's figure landed before the martial sacred corpse. The crowd stared with their eyes open wide. The scene felt like a dream to them. It was too shocking, too laudifying. What right do you have to claim my succession? The martial sacred corpse stared at Qin Nan as if it were questioning him with disdain. What right? Qin Nan was startled, before his lips curled upward. That's my right. Qin Nan showed no sign of fear. The divine battle spirit floated out from his back and stood firmly between the heavens and earth with an imperious aura. Love go little say, ku, 8th grade D-ranked martial spirit? The martial sacred corpse mumbled to itself after seeing this. Following this, the green flames in its eyes flickered vigorously as it burst out laughing. Ha ha ha, nice one, interesting. Your martial spirit might not be the best in the Eastern continent, but you do have the right to claim it. Following this, the green flames in the eyes of the martial sacred corpse vanished, together with the will of the martial sacred. Elder, thank you. Qin Nan brought his fists together and reached out his hand, grabbing the corpse and the rest of the treasures into his bag without hesitation. He glanced at the rogue cultivators present and found that they were still in a daze. He immediately took a step forward and dashed toward them. The website is refreshing and has few advertisements. I like this kind of website the most. You must give it a good review. He glanced at the rogue cultivators present and found that they were still in a daze. By the time everyone reacted, Qin Nan had already taken dozens of steps away. Not good. He took them all. So many treasures. He actually took it all for himself. This is too much. Let's attack together. The eyes of the rogue cultivators were spitting flames as their murderous auras soared, dashing toward Qin Nan. In the blink of an eye, Qin Nan seemed to have a large army chasing after him. This is bad. With so many of them attacking at once, we won't be a match for them. I'll hold them back, you go first. Luan Feng snapped out of her daze as layers of ice surfaced in her eyes. How are you going to deal with it alone? Qin Nan's forehead was filled with black lines. These 30 rogue cultivators each possessed outstanding cultivations. Even he had to admit that he would not stand a chance against them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Following a series of piercing sounds, the cultivators chased after Qin Nan without any sign of letting their guard down. As Qin Nan exited the martial sacred's tomb, his figure suddenly came to a stop as he drew out his ancient saber, while his figure emitted a terrifying murderous intent. I'll fight anyone who dares to attack me. Qin Nan's eyes turned sharp as his demon god's robe flapped wildly in the wind, causing him to utter a roar like a demon. The 30 rogue cultivators were all dumbfounded. This Duan Qing was only a 7th layer martial highness. Where did he get the confidence to challenge them? Not only were they confused, even Luan Feng's eyes were wide open. What was Duan Qing trying to do? Suddenly, one of the rogue cultivators blurted out in astonishment as if he had discovered something, "The 3 stars are dead." The words served as a great shock to the crowd. The crowd subconsciously scanned their surroundings, and their hearts skipped a beat when they saw the 3 corpses. The 3 stars. The 3 stars had really been killed. Those were the 3 stars. Even the 15th ranked cultivator on the Hidden Dragon ranking would be able to leave safely if they were to team up. At that instant, the crowd could not help but recall that Duan Qing had chosen to stay outside instead of entering the martial sacred's tomb. Could it be? The 3 stars were killed by Duan Qing? The crowd of rogue cultivators held their breaths, including Luan Feng. Everyone knew that Duan Qing was only a 7th layer martial highness, but he was able to defeat the 3 stars on his own without suffering any damage. Wasn't his strength a bit too terrifying? Don't be intimidated by him, there's something fishy about this. Let's team up and kill Duan Qing. An 8th layer martial highness realm cultivator yelled. The words caused many of the rogue cultivators to be startled. He was right. There was definitely something fishy about this. Besides, if they were to team up, they would have no problem dealing with Duan Qing. Do you want to have a try? Qin Nan's eyes flickered thunderously. Without hesitation, he drew out the ancient saber from its sheath while accumulating the forces of the phoenix, soul-consuming fire, sky, thunder, etc., which transformed into a terrifying saber intent as he slashed at the 8th layer martial highness realm cultivator. The expressions of the 30 cultivators changed. Their bodies tensed up and their hair stood on end. They could sense great danger from the saber. The face of the 8th layer martial highness realm cultivator turned pale as a sense of impending doom rose in his heart. Wait, the 8th layer martial highness realm cultivator took 3 steps backward before he calmed his thoughts and blurted out in a panic. If Duan Qing were to deal with him alone, the slash alone was more than enough to kill him. Perhaps you all think that you can kill me by teaming up, and I'll admit it. I'll be honest with you, I can at most execute 7 slashes with my strongest slash. After that, I'll be completely powerless. Qin Nan glanced at the crowd and let out a hollow laugh. But, if you want to fight, then let's fight. I guarantee that the 7 of you who come first will die. At that instant, a ferocious aura swept the place. The hearts of the 30 rogue cultivators shuddered violently. Who among them would dare to be the scapegoat? No one would dare to do so. Anyone who dares to chase after me will die. Qin Nan withdrew his murderous aura and coldly glanced at the crowd, before his figure sprang into the sky and flew into the distance. Many cultivators held their breath. Were they really going to let Duan Qing leave with all the treasures so easily? I don't need the 3 ancient martial arts. Do as you deem fit. At that instant, a roar could be heard from the distance. Qin Nan flicked his finger and fired the 3 scrolls that contained the ancient martial arts toward him. The ancient martial arts are mine. You're asking for it. The 30 rogue cultivators regained their senses. Almost all of their attention was focused on the 3 jade slip. A huge battle took place. Luan Feng watched everything that had just happened with a dazed look on her face. If they had been careless, the 30 rogue cultivators would have ganged up on them. It would have been extremely difficult for them to escape from the place. However, to their surprise, Qin Nan took the initiative to challenge the 30 rogue cultivators, who did not dare to move at all. Are you trying to distract them by throwing the 3 ancient martial arts at them, so that they would give up on chasing after us? Luan Feng could not help but ask. If that was the case, this man was indeed meticulous. Not all of them. Qin Nan let out a calm smile and said, however, the 3 ancient martial arts are useless to me. It was not beneficial to practice too many ancient martial arts, as they were all mixed together. Qin Nan already had a few ancient martial arts, which was more than enough. Besides, he still did not have enough time to comprehend the art of the vermilion bird. These ancient martial arts would only be wasted in his hands. It was better to let the others develop the ancient martial arts of the martial saint of power. That being said, Qin Nan did not mention one thing. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.